time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome and all to a Tuesday matinee edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular, of course.
Hello.
Hello. We want to start this program out by shouting out a very special thanks to the president of South Korea for making this show a little more interesting than we thought it was going to be. You know, it was kind of a slow news day this morning. We're like, we're kind of struggling for that seventh segment. What's it going to be? Boom. Right there for us.
Martial law, bitches.
Had our back, baby. Had our back. That's why they're such a reliable partner. That's why they're a trade partner. That's why we have our military bases there, because they never let you down. You know, it was a little bit of a slow news day. We were a little concerned. You know, we didn't want to have to pull one of these like C-tier stories and fake our way through being excited about it. We don't like to do that. We do when we have to, but you know, it was a great show Sunday, a lot of really substantive stuff Sunday, so I didn't want to like take a C-tier story today. So then I said, oh, look, South Korea, martial law, beautiful, perfect.
And I really like South Korea stories because they make good electronics.
That's right.
And they live on a knife's edge, waiting to be invaded at any moment by their neighbors to the north.
That's right.
They have a collapsing birth rate.
The
worst in the world. They have very nimble little fingers.
There we go. Oh yeah. By the way, other thing you may notice, Russ sounds better today. Was able to troubleshoot his technology there, so the microphone is back.
Software
and he's back on
update.
the laptop. Yeah.
Software update. Why? You know, it's always some shit. It's always some shit. Like, why can't things just work?
Yeah.
Why do you have to go redo? You know, you have to be an engineer to have a computer.
I'm telling you, man. Apple, this shit works all the time.
I know.
Now.
Jimmy actually got mad when I bought the Dell.
Apple works all the time. That's why I say, man, if Steve Jobs developed a vaccine, you'd have no problem. Not that you have any problems anyway. This vaccine's totally safe and effective, and you should check the CDC and go get your booster when you can. But we're saying it would be even better. It would be even better if the CEO of Apple made it.
Moderna, actually, they're developing a vaccine condiment.
Yeah, right. There you go. Yes, exactly. We're saying it would work even better. It would work even better if the brains behind Apple were in charge, as opposed to the brains behind Microsoft. Even better, because Apple products work even better. So you could have had a much better vaccine. That's all. We're just trying to be helpful here. That's all.
The reason I did not buy an Apple is because I don't like how they roll, especially because I have an iPhone. They want to lock you into their software and their ecosystem, and once you're in it, you're trapped. It's a prison. You have to use Apple. Once you're in this, then you got the fucking watch. You got the Apple girlfriends. That's coming soon.
Mm-hmm.
Believe me, it's coming soon.
Yeah,
they already have the AI girlfriends.
Yeah.
Once they have the robotics perfected, you're gonna have an Apple girlfriend, Apple boyfriend.
Hey, the Microsoft girlfriends never come. You know, that's it. So I'm just. Just goes to show you. Just goes to prove my point. It's just added frustration.
They're way out ahead on that technology.
Yeah, it's just added frustration.
Those AI girl. I want to do a segment on that.
Microsoft girlfriend. Yeah.
Yeah. The Microsoft girlfriend is going to have to reboot every few minutes.
Gets a headache every 10 minutes.
It's a headache. Yeah, it's true, but I looked into editing software, and apparently Apple used to be because that was my main concern. Apple used to be way out ahead on what you could get on a PC, and that's just not really the case anymore.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, this technology works good, but we're glad you got yours going. We got a great crowd in here, 611 strong in the YouTube chat, 541 on Rumble. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button. Let's smash the like button, get a crowd in here. Tweet this stream out, please, and thank you so much. And let's get started right now because we do have big news out of South Korea. So Kyle Becker tweets, South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol has declared martial law. The parliament just voted to undo it 190-0. What the hell is going on in South Korea? So that's sort of the super condensed timeline of this. But let's take a look at this from CNN to catch people up.
South Korean president declaring martial law in a late-night TV address. CNN's Mike Valerio joining us now from Seoul. Mike, I know the detail pretty sketchy at this point. What do we know?
Well, we have disturbing details that are just crossing the Reuters wire, Becky, as our colleagues and team of journalists are sorting through what this means. Reuters reporting at this hour that all media in South Korea are coming under the control of martial law command in South Korea. What that means for us here at CNN, unclear. Our bureau's broadcasting from the heart of Seoul, South Korea. But protesters, according to information that is just coming into our bureau here, are being told by law enforcement that they can be arrested without any warrant in this new chapter of martial law that has begun just about an hour and a half ago. So to bring our viewers up to speed, what exactly we're dealing with here, the president of South Korea, Yoon Suk Yeol, comes on TV in an unannounced address to the nation and says, Becky, because of what he described as elements of government that are, from his view, sympathetic to North Korea, to communist forces, because of those things and others, he is declaring martial law for the first time since this country has been ruled by military dictatorship in the 1980s.
Notice when the anti-communists get really afraid of communists, they start acting just like they say the communists act. You know?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's worth observing. All right, this is almost done.
Now, we are trying to sort through what this means for democracy in this bastion of democratic rule in East Asia. I live about just a couple minutes away from where we're broadcasting from. There are police, Becky, who are on their phones, calling their captains, calling their colleagues, asking, what are they to do? What does this mean? What is going on in the building that I live in? And when you're just walking through the streets, there are people who are running to their families' homes to be with them, to figure out what to do to be close to loved ones in this moment that is unprecedented in so many of our memories. So
sounds like some pretty crazy bullshit going on over there out of nowhere today. South Korea President Yoon Suk Yeol declares martial law. Opposition leaders vow to fight. So this was shortly before the parliament voted to lift it. South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol declared martial law late on Tuesday as he accused the country's main opposition party of being overly sympathetic to North Korea and other anti-state activities. Opposition leaders called the move unconstitutional and vowed to fight back. Parliament passed a motion requiring Yoon to lift his declaration. Photos and videos showed parliamentary staffers spraying fire extinguishers at armed martial law forces as they tried to breach the building. So we have some photos here. The videos are quite violent. They would run risk of getting this video age restricted. And so we're not going to take any chances on that front. But we will show you some photos here. DW News. South Korea's parliament, with 190 of its 300 members present, passed a motion requiring the martial law declared by President Yoon to be lifted. National Assembly Speaker Woon Won-shik said lawmakers will protect democracy with the people. So here's military clashing outside the parliament. There you could see another angle of that shot. These photos courtesy of Reuters, who broke this story. Here you could see they seem to be barricading themselves inside to protect from the military who's trying to break in. The surprise martial law declaration comes as Yoon's People Power Party and the opposition Democratic Party were locked in a political battle over a budget bill. Wow, seems like a pretty extreme reaction to a battle over a budget bill. Yoon said in a late-night television address that he made the declaration to protect the Free Republic of Korea from the threat of North Korean communist forces, to eradicate the despicable pro-North Korean anti-state forces that are plundering the freedom and happiness of our people, and to protect the free constitutional order. They don't have no fucking parliamentarian bullshit over there, it sounds like. That doesn't sound like that would fly in South Korea.
What is he basing this on?
It seems to be, I mean, apparently his wife is being investigated for something.
In spite of appearances, we're not South Korea experts here.
Yeah, we're not South Korea experts here, but
I know we may have misrepresented ourselves as such in the past.
Yeah, right.
But it's time to come clean. That's why you should always be honest, because then all of a sudden a big South Korea story breaks. People expect you to know what the fuck you're talking about.
And you're caught flat-footed. That's right.
Yep.
South Korean opposition parties had taken the country's parliamentary system hostage and thrown the country into crisis, Yoon said, leaving him no choice but to make the drastic move. South Korea is a close American ally and trade partner. The administration is in contact with the ROK, Republic of Korea government, and is monitoring the situation closely, the U.S. Defense Department said in a statement Tuesday, using the country's formal name, the Republic of Korea. Lee Jae-myung, leader of the opposition Democratic Party, which has the majority in Parliament, told YTN Parliament would try to nullify the declaration. Michael Tracey, always on it. We're going to be previewing our full interview with Michael Tracey a little bit later on the show. Says, wow, President Yoon's decree imposing martial law in South Korea bans, quote, all political activities, including all political parties, rallies, and even the National Assembly itself. Fake news is banned, quote unquote, and the military will control the media, all to preserve liberal democracy. So we'll read this.
It's pretty typical of U.S. allies, right? That's what Ukraine did.
Of course, yeah. They're just trying to be a good partner. They're, what did the guy call it? A bastion of democracy in the East. Yeah. Yep. South Korean president, so this is screenshotted from Tracy's tweet from the original Reuters report here. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol, pardon me, declared, I don't want to get his name wrong, he might come for us, declared martial law on Tuesday for the first time in the country since 1980. Below is a Reuters translation of the military decree. In order to protect liberal democracy from the threat of overthrowing the regime of the Republic of Korea by anti-state forces active within the Republic of Korea and to protect the safety of the people, the following is hereby declared throughout the Republic of Korea as of 2300 hours on December 3rd, 2024. All political activities, including the activity of the National Assembly, local councils, and political parties, political associations, rallies, and demonstrations, are prohibited. All acts that deny or attempt to overthrow the liberal democratic system are prohibited, and fake news, public opinion manipulation, and false propaganda are prohibited. All media and publications are subject to the control of the martial law commands. Maybe him and Kim Jong-un just did like a state swap, like a little role-playing game. Who knows?
Maybe,
sounds like that to me.
Maybe.
Strikes.
I hear Yeonmi Park has been seen plying her wares behind the bus station.
Exactly. Strikes, work stoppages, and rallies that incite social chaos are prohibited. All medical personnel, including trainee doctors who are on strike or have left the medical field, must return to their jobs within 48 hours and work faithfully. Those who violate will be punished in accordance with the martial law. Innocent ordinary citizens, excluding anti-state forces and other subversive forces, will be subject to measures to minimize inconvenience in their daily lives. Oh, that's nice of him. Violators of the above proclamation may be arrested, detained, and searched without a warrant in accordance with Article 9 of the Martial Law Act of the Republic of Korea. So, yeah, that sounds pretty fucking intense to me. Now, here is video of the unanimous vote to end the martial law. Now, unanimous with a bit of an asterisk here because only 190 of the 300 members of parliament were present. But like I said, we are far from South Korean legal scholars here, so I don't know what the rules are, but 190 is a majority of 300. So assuming it's, assuming it's majority rule, they have the votes anyway, even if everyone were present. But here's a video of that.
Oh, you've got the wrong clip. This was the vote to make Gangnam Style the #1 song. Gangnam Style.
I apologize about that loudness, folks. I didn't realize, man, they got really excited for that vote. Well, I don't blame them. Hey, it's tense circumstances over there, right? So there's the vote. Here's Chase Oliver, who wore a mask at Thanksgiving 4 years ago. I find it necessary to bring that up every time his name comes up because I think that's really important that everybody understand that about him. So take everything he says with a grain of salt. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is certainly more of a violation of our liberties than the demand that peaceful protesters be questioned by the FBI.
Right.
I would imagine people that are really bothered by Chase Oliver's mask wearing would be all over that.
Right.
They are, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, I just want to make sure everybody understands that. Let's make sure we and our military stay out of this mess in South Korea. President Biden and President-elect Trump should both make this commitment, anti-war, to the core. Ian Bremmer says, I didn't have South Korea briefly becoming North Korea on my geopolitical bingo card. And speaking of North Korea, Russ teased this out earlier. I love this meme. In South Korea, the president can declare martial law for no reason whenever he wants. Yes, that seems to be what has happened there. So, yeah, quite the event there in South Korea. Now, I've seen some accounts that are saying that, look, because the United States seems to be not supportive of the president's decision, as you could see just from the media coverage, that there may very well be a soft coup of sorts in the coming months because we need South Korea as our vassal state. We have a lot of military bases there. There are eyes on North Korea. There are eyes on China. And so if this guy goes off the reservation,
in case of an invasion of China.
Exactly, yes. So if this guy goes off the reservation in this way, he might have to be replaced because it seems like this is too disruptive even for the United States. And it's not really clear why. It says they were locked in a budget battle. Apparently his wife is being investigated for who knows what. Like I said, this just broke today. We're not going to be posers and pretend we're experts. But obviously just an extreme response to what seems like a pretty mundane political problem he may be facing. So, yeah, if it's in the interest of the West to keep the shit to shoe level, they might need to get him removed.
I mean, can't they? I mean, South Korea, you don't have to pull CIA coup kind of tactics, right? Can't they just do a no confidence vote?
I mean, he seems pretty unpopular. I mean, the parliament voted unanimously to overturn this.
Can't the parliament vote to hold new elections?
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't imagine they're not doing that, given the unanimous vote of opposition to this. Now, some people are quibbling over the fact that there were only 190 members present out of 300. I don't have any reason to believe anybody else would vote any differently. And even if they did, you're already at 190. You already have a pretty overwhelming majority. Yeah. So that is quite something. That was quite the surprise to wake up to. Talk about a story just coming out of absolutely nowhere.
And one angle, because this did come up so quickly, I didn't have a chance to explore. And maybe we will subsequently, depending on whether this develops into something even worse. South Korea has the lowest birth rate in the world. It's a real crisis for the country. Like they are leading the way into societies that are facing oblivion due to not having a younger generation. So is that creating social tensions? I mean, certainly if that trend continues worldwide, it would lead to social instability. You are going to see societies facing that kind of population collapse become increasingly unstable. So is South Korea getting there first? And is it partly because of the low birth rate plus this, almost over 70-year pressure of being right on the line of the old Cold War, which never really ended in that part of the world?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I just am not as versed enough in this to answer that either way. What I can say, though, is seems to be a very, very extreme measure to take, seemingly out of nowhere. And so I'm sure there will be more on this that we'll cover more probably on Thursday, as we have time to look into this a little more. Like I said, this just broke basically before we did the show today. Yeah, I mean, you talk about just a drastic measure. I mean, you read those 6 orders. I mean, yeah, that's martial law. Now, apparently it has been lifted. But remains to be seen what exactly this was about. Him saying there are anti-state actors. I mean, he made it sound like he was responding to an emergency, which goes without saying. He declared martial law. That's what you do. But I don't really see what evidence he has produced or what evidence the media has produced that would legitimize that response or legitimize any claim that this was anywhere in the realm of being necessary. It doesn't seem like that to me.
Well,
and
the
I think you can kind of tell that by the fact that the media is not, our U.S. media, our corporate media has an incentive to legitimize and prop up the state of South Korea, obviously, and they don't seem to be doing that. They seem to be saying this was a bridge way too far.
Well, there are rumors that the opposition was going to release proof that Yeonmi Park's breasts are in fact fake.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Exactly. So, that's a rumor. We will have to vet that.
He was trying to put a stop to it.
Yes. We cannot confirm that, but that Russell has a source. Russell says that a lot of very smart people are saying
a lot of very smart people are saying that could destabilize one of their most successful propaganda efforts.
There you go. Absolutely. Hillary Hinton says it's just a dugout that my dad built in case these Reds decide to push the button down. We've got provisions and lots of beer. The key word is survival on the new frontier. Donald Fagen. Thank you, Hillary Hinton. That's off of his solo album, right? That's not a Steely Dan song. That's off of one of the 80s albums that he did. But yes, I'm a big Steely Dan fan and a big Fagen fan as well. So good call on that, Hillary Hinton. Appreciate that.
I looked this up the other day because this is the kind of thing you do before you go to bed if you're in this line of work. There are 2 main companies that sell bunkers, prefab bunkers, and they're having the best sales they've ever had.
Oh, really? Wow, that's good.
Oh, yeah, man. Yo, you got some crazy bunkers. There are bunkers that are basically like a full mansion underground. And those are obviously, $12 million to get one of those. But yeah, man, I mean, 200,000, like that's, more usual. Those are flying off the shelf.
Not too surprising. A Biden corn pop petitioned the Gerald Ford administration for a pardon of November 74 and was ignored. Thank you, Biden. Appreciate that. Kyle's increase on X and YouTube aren't officially manipulated. They're the 40% of boomers leaving MSNBC and finding equilibrium with Kuklinski. Thank you, Biden. Appreciate that. Eric Cusso, movie suggestion, Cherry 2000. Thank you, Eric Cusso. Appreciate that. JM, thanks for the $2 and the thumbs up over on YouTube. Putz the Mouse says, as always, love you guys. Right back at you, Putz the Mouse. Appreciate that. Jeff says, have you discussed the recent drone UAP activity? No,
we have not.
We will have to.
I was looking at that UFO story. We just never got to it.
Yeah, we just never got to it. We might pencil that. That might be it. That sounds like a good morning show topic. Maybe we'll pencil it in for Thursday.
Maybe.
Me Shoot Skeet says, get it right. It's not the Republic of South Korea. It's the Republic of Samsung. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Me Shoot Skeet. All right. Folks, we're going to move right along here. So Hunter Biden was pardoned. We broke the news on our Sunday evening stream. President Biden did us a great favor and broke the news right when we were live. So we were amongst the first in our space to have it. But there's plenty more to cover, including the fallout from that pardon, as well as some details about the pardon itself, which we're going to get to in just a moment. But I want to start out with this debate of sorts here. The Vigilant Fox, Scott Jennings shuts down CNN panelists trying to blame Trump for Biden pardoning Hunter. Now, this CNN panelist, her name is Karen Finney. She was one of the Hillary Clinton campaign higher-ups, so she is just an entrenched, resistance, love Trump's hate type lib. She's basically like, what's the other name? The one that everybody knows, Neera Tanden. She's very much a Neera Tanden type. And so
this was so pathetic. I almost felt sorry for her having to go out and carry water for the Bidens at this point. Like, that's the gig. She knows better. I don't even buy that she believes this shit.
Well, we will take a look. Here this is.
Saying they're not happy. There are Democrats saying they're not happy that President Biden made this decision.
Yeah. Well, tough. The president went ahead and did what he thought was right for him and for his protection.
They have such hatred for their own
voters. I just don't understand how these people are losing.
Yeah.
I just don't understand how they got crushed in an election against a game show host.
They have
twice.
They have such contempt for their own voters.
They hate their voters. They hate them. Tough. Fuck you. Even after all this, she goes right there because after literally decades of telling voters to shut up,
right?
They just don't have another speed, right? They don't have. They're so used to just throwing out these aristocratic pronouncements. People just don't know how good they have it. People are stupid. That's the problem.
Exactly. I mean, after this epic debacle of a campaign season, which, I mean, we've litigated this a lot. I think it goes back to Obama 16 years ago. But within the context of this own cycle, it's all Biden. It's all Biden's decision to run. It's Biden taking too long to drop out. It's Biden's refusal to drop out immediately after that debate. It's Biden jumping the gun and endorsing Kamala, which we're going to get to later in the show, later in the live stream. All Biden. Just an absolute epic failure by this man. Now, to add insult to injury, he comes out and undermines the Democratic Party's entire case against Trump, which is we believe in rule of law, and he doesn't.
Rule of law.
He comes out and undermines that as a lame duck. He comes out and undermines that as a lame duck after completely shitting on the entire campaign, which was supposed to be the most important campaign of our lifetimes. Yep. And say some Democrats are upset. Well, tough. Eat shit. Yep. Yeah. First words out of her mouth. Yeah. All right. Let's let this go.
Amazing. Yeah. Just amazing.
There are Democrats saying they're not happy that President Biden made this decision.
Yeah. Well, tough. The president went ahead and did what he thought was right for him and to protect his son.
Joe Biden is leaving office making the strongest possible case for Donald Trump that anybody could possibly make it, and that's that our government and our justice system is of, by, and for the elites and nobody else. He ran to banish Trumpism from our political system in this country, and he has left it politically and now institutionally the strongest possible political force in this country. It is a complete and utter failure by the head of the Democratic Party and the President of the United States. Never again do I want to hear, oh, Donald Trump's a liar. You can't believe anything he says. Donald Trump will abuse his power. Donald Trump will only use the system to benefit himself and his family and so on and so forth. Never again. I have one question for Karen.
Okay, before he gets to his one question for Karen, I just want to interject here because I agree with him. I never want to hear any of those things ever again from people like Karen Finney. Yes. They need to sit down and shut up because they've been discredited. This doesn't mean no one can criticize Donald Trump. You give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. They're going to say no one gets to criticize Donald Trump anymore because Joe Biden's a hypocritical asshole. No, I agree. I don't want to hear a word out of her mouth or anyone like her ever again. They are retired. They need to quit, retire, whatever. You got plenty of money from whatever Center American Progress, whatever fucking scam you've been running. I don't know where she's from. One of those places. But the rest of us, yes, we're still free to criticize Donald Trump, and we still absolutely will. But this is the game they're going to play now. They're going to say, well, now you can't. Now when Donald Trump, breaks the law, you're not allowed to say anything.
Well, this is the argument that, and actually we're going to positively cover something that the cabinet's doing, or theoretically going to do later on, or claiming they're going to do. But yeah, I mean that's what you're getting with a lot of the criticism of cabinet picks. Well, they're gonna look at what these people did in these different agencies. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't make them good.
Right.
Doesn't make what he's saying. I don't want to hear that Donald Trump will use the system to benefit himself. Well, this FBI director that they just nominated or are going to try to get through, we'll see whether that happens. The guy has overtly said he wants to use the FBI to go after Trump's enemies.
Right.
That is a completely, do you feel that's a good thing?
Right.
Are we supposed to feel that's a good thing? Yes, these people are hypocrites. Absolutely. Absolutely. And as I'm sure you'll get into, the fact that he extended this pardon as far as he did is pretty well a smoking gun that everything that everybody has been claiming all these years about Burisma, Ukraine, 10% to the big guy, the Biden crime family. It's all true. It's all true. And anyone who really looked into it knew it was true. And people like Karen Finney have been running around calling it a conspiracy theory. Every corporate media article about Hunter Biden in Ukraine always had that lengthy proviso in it. I know because I researched this a lot. Anytime you had a corporate media article about it, there is no evidence that there was any impropriety in Ukraine. Oh, yeah. If it were Trump and you had tapes saying 10% to the big guy, I'm sure you'd be that incurious about it.
Yeah, exactly. So while I agree, we should never have to hear from her again. That doesn't mean nobody is allowed to oppose Donald Trump.
Oh, well, of course, and this is exactly what you're going to get from MAGA because of this.
Right, of course. All right, but this goes on.
Trump will only use the system to benefit himself and his family and so on and so forth. Never again. I have one question for Karen, and that is, why did he need an 11-year blanket pardon going back to 2014 when Joe Biden was the vice president? We are sitting on the biggest cover-up of who knows what crimes, and Joe Biden amazingly knows exactly, roughly, when it started. He knows
this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about, because that is how they've been handling that for years. Oh, what do you mean? When it is not a case where the evidence is slipshod or crazy or vague. The evidence that the Bidens had multiple shell companies that they were moving dirty money around is pretty fucking overwhelming.
Yeah.
And that's how they treated it, because they only appear on media like this where nobody would question them about it. They only sit there with people like Joe and Mika who are going to go, where do Republicans get this idea?
Exactly. We are going to get more into this as the segment goes on. But yeah, look at you just laughing there, and we'll hear him. He goes on.
When it all started, he's leading office in complete and total disgrace. He is a liar, and there is no other way to spin this today. This has nothing to do with Trump and everything to do with the character of Joe Biden.
That Republicans have been for years now trying to attack the president himself, go after his family. And when you have someone who literally ran their campaign on retribution, on the idea of I will be your retribution and getting back at his enemies, I would imagine, obviously I haven't spoken to the president about this, but I would imagine the president took a look at this and said, I want to make sure this is ironclad, that there is nothing that can be done to circumvent what I'm going to do to protect my son and to try to take the target off of his back once and for all. So that's my reading of it. But again,
look what you made me do.
Hypocrisy.
Well, also he's protecting himself, which we will get to later in just a moment or two. But yes, he's also protecting himself, given the scope of the pardon.
Here, it is astounding. I mean, Donald Trump has said and done things, said things and done other things. And again, he's a convicted felon himself. He has used his power to benefit his friends, his wealthy allies. In this instance, we're talking about a man who decided to take care of his son after years of unrelenting attacks I don't blame him.
You guys can spend all day long trying to spin this, that this is Donald Trump's fault, that this is somehow caused by Donald Trump. Oh, he's appointing the wrong people. Oh, he did it. Oh, this is the worst possible thing a president could possibly do to his party and to the country, to sit for a year and say, I will not do this. I will not do this. The rule of law is sacred. We have to respect the justice system. Juries, we have to respect juries. We have to respect the guardrails and the norms of our democracy. These people are liars. Inflation is transitory. Afghanistan is a success. The border is secure. Robert Hur is a liar. The videos are cheap fakes. Biden has a cold. He'll never drop out. Oh, I'll never pardon Hunter. It's all a lie. It is all a grift. Every American, except the most partisan, brain-rotted people, are going to be outraged by this today. He is going to leave off. You think 39% job approval is bad? Just you wait. Just you wait. He's disgraced today. Outrageous. Are you?
All right. Well, no lie detected there.
Yeah. And you could see her like start to deflate and then realize, no, the gig is, it doesn't matter what the truth is.
Right.
You just have to come up with something. You just have to give the brain-rotted libs that he's describing something to hold on to.
No, but you know what? They attacked him for years. She's right. What is he supposed to do? Let them come after him unfairly?
Right. Now, here's the thing.
That's who that's for. But it's such a small number of people now. He's right. Who's going to buy that anymore? I mean, we could see it in the ratings for CNN and MSNBC that have completely collapsed. Like now you're down to the dumbest of the dumb and the most bedridden of the bedridden. Like, people in old folks' homes who can't get out of bed are watching this, and that's only because the nurse won't change the channel.
Yeah. No, it is quite the pathetic role to have to play at this point. But, when she says that, he's looking out for his son. I feel I need to say this every time we cover this, just as a disclaimer, so I don't come off as a self-righteous prick. I'd have done this too. I'd have pardoned my kid too, even if I were Joe Biden, and all of the hypocrisy that comes with that, which we've talked about in the past. We'll talk about more, obviously. I would have done the same thing. The thing is, though, this isn't.
I would have shaken the judge's hand and said, "Make a man of him."
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Make it a good and long sentence. Keep him out of my hair. I don't need him coking up any more of my daughter-in-laws.
So the thing about this, though, is that this is really not entirely about Hunter Biden and his drug problem and the gun charge and the tax charge. Politico reports we haven't seen a pardon as sweeping as Hunter Biden's in generations. Hunter Biden's pardon looks a lot like Richard Nixon's. President Joe Biden's grant of clemency on Sunday night, an extraordinary political act with extraordinary legal breadth, insulates his son from ever facing federal charges over any crimes he possibly could have committed over the past decade. Experts on pardons say they could think of only one other person who has received a presidential pardon so sweeping in generations: Nixon, who was given a blanket pardon by Gerald Ford in 1974. And actually, the Nixon pardon only covered 5 years, so I guess technically this is even bigger than that, because this covers the full 10. I have never seen language like this in a pardon document that purports to pardon offenses that have not apparently even been charged, with the exception of the Nixon pardon, said Margaret Love, who served from 1990 to 1997 as the U.S. pardon attorney, a Justice Department position devoted to assisting the president on clemency issues. Even the broadest Trump pardons were specific as to what was being pardoned, Love added. Joe Biden's full and unconditional pardon of his son is deliberately vague. Donald Trump and his allies have long fixated on the president's son, and Trump has repeatedly pledged to use his second term to investigate and prosecute members of the Biden family. Conservative commentators have engaged in parlor game speculation that Hunter Biden could be charged with bribery, illegal lobbying, or other crimes stemming from his foreign business activities and drug addiction. So rather than merely pardoning his son for the gun crimes for which he was convicted and the tax crimes for which he pleaded guilty, the president's pardon covers all offenses against the United States which he has committed or may have committed or taken part in from January 1st, 2014 through December 1st, 2024. He may have wanted to wait another 6 weeks just in case, Hunter does something in between now and then. Never know with that guy. That language mirrors the language in Ford's pardon of Nixon, which did not merely cover the Watergate scandal, but extended to all offenses against the United States that Nixon has committed or may have committed between January 20th, 1969 and August 9th, 1974, the exact span of Nixon's presidency. The starting date of January 1st, 2014 in the Biden pardon was surely not chosen randomly. Hunter Biden joined the board of Burisma Holdings, a Ukrainian gas company, in April 2014, while his father was vice president. Republicans have accused the younger Biden of illegally profiting off his position on that board. The pardon came the day after Trump announced he would nominate Kash Patel, a Trump loyalist, as FBI director. Last year, when it appeared that Hunter Biden was on the verge of a plea deal to resolve the legal troubles, Patel criticized the deal as unusually lenient. The deal later collapsed. As a former federal public defender and national security prosecutor, this case has singularly done more damage to the institution of justice than I've ever seen in my life, Patel said at the time. Okay, so let me read. I'll just read the quick rest of this. Sorry. Hand slip there. Trump will not be able to undo the pardon when he takes office, and its sweeping nature means the Trump Justice Department will not be able to reopen the long-running criminal probe of the president's son, according to Samuel Morrison, a lawyer focused on clemency who spent 13 years in the Justice Department's office of the pardon attorney. Like Love, Morrison said the only comparably broad pardon he could think of was the one that went to Nixon. It's an extraordinarily broad grant, he said. So, yeah. Look, the fact that they set the beginning date January 1st, 2014, I mean, it's comical. It's comically obvious. And this is not that I'm disparaging an outlet like Zero Hedge. This is Politico. This is a mainstream outlet saying this is not a coincidence. It's crazy that he picked January 1st, 2014 as the date to start the clock. Because don't forget, Hunter Biden's he's not an elected official. With Nixon, they were pardoning all presidential activities, right? So it made sense. That was the window, January 20th till the time he resigned. With Hunter Biden, why start the clock there? Well, because he got this board position in, of all countries, Ukraine, the one that we've been now arming to the teeth, claiming some national interest that most of the country can't figure out exactly what it is.
Yeah, but remember, Politico, they always do this when their shit blows up in their face. They always do the Casablanca thing. I had no idea there was gambling going on in this establishment. These are the same propagandists who have been running around for years calling anyone who tried to raise this issue a conspiracy theorist, in spite of the fact that they're the way that Finney reacted in that interview. That's what they've been doing for years.
Of course, yeah.
Anybody brings this up, 10% to the big guy. Who's the big guy?
Right.
Who's the big guy? John Holmes? Who's the big guy?
Right, exactly.
I think we know who he's talking about when he says the big guy. All this shit was right out in people's faces, and the entire media has been doing a full court press to pretend this is some kind of wacky QAnon Pizzagate conspiracy theory, when it's actually a very well-grounded and pretty well-documented assertion of facts that they've completely dismissed. So now they always do it when it blows up in their face. Oh, this is horrible. They get the vapors.
Well, that's what I mean. This is evidence that it's blown up in their face, because you're seeing even an outlet like this print, hey, this can't possibly just be happenstance that they picked this date of all the dates
they don't need to cover for Biden anymore. They got the signals from the people they take orders from that it's open season on Biden. Biden, as we'll see later, he fucked them on Kamala, according to all the rumors that are coming out of the campaign, that they didn't actually want Biden to endorse her.
Right.
That they were getting ready to line up somebody else. They knew she was a loser. And then their hands were kind of tied by that. He was getting back at them for ousting him.
Yeah, for forcing him.
And now he does this on the way out the door when they're at their weakest. It's open season. The media got permission from their handlers.
Exactly. Exactly. So here's an older clip from Vivek Ramaswamy. Apparently, Hunter Biden now sits in the White House meetings. Ukraine got its money's worth. The fact that Hunter sat on Burisma's board with 0 qualifications is now a bigger scandal than ever. So this is an old video, but I think it's relevant to this conversation here. He makes this point pretty well.
As it even relates to that same Biden family dynamic that I described. Think about this. Hunter Biden was sitting on the board of Burisma. This is a Ukrainian state-affiliated energy company that Hunter Biden had no business sitting on the board of. And yet that is the exact same country that Joe Biden, the puppet, directs hundreds of billions of dollars of U.S. taxpayer money to afterwards. If the same shoe fit the other foot and this was a Republican or, God forbid, Donald Trump, imagine what the reaction would be. So those are the same people now deciding what they're going to do with their own family. So the reality is it is so corrupt, Laura, that I do think the right answer, unfortunately for the Democrats, is they have to play to the personal incentives of the Biden family. That's what this is going to come down to. What I worry about on our side is a lot of this creates a distraction, an artificial distraction to make the entire message about Biden or who they're going to put up. I think it's a risk for Republicans this fall.
Okay, then he starts talking about how he never thought Biden was going to be the nominee. But that's the operative part we just heard there. That's pretty well said. Now, I got to credit my brother for planting this idea in my head because he called me last night and he says, hey, isn't it ironic that Biden's tenure as president is really bookended by, at first, gaslighting the public, clearly just cozying up to the deep state and colluding to bury this Hunter Biden corruption story. And he goes out basically admitting he was guilty the whole time. Yeah, well, fuck you. What are you going to do about it? I'm the president. So here's an old tweet from RNC Research. Here's Biden saying the incriminating emails on Hunter's laptop were just a smear campaign and a bunch of garbage. You must all remember this.
Former national intelligence, 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They have said that this has all the 5 former heads of the CIA, both parties say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage.
So he rides a wave of bullshit into office by clearly lying about his son's dealing in Ukraine. And he ends his tenure on office basically saying, yeah, we were full of shit the whole time. What are you going to do about it? I'm the president. He's pardoned. Boom. Name on the line. Fuck you. That's how Biden is going to be remembered ultimately. Even the libs, which we'll get to in the next segment, very upset about this for his legacy.
Who's surprised?
Yeah.
They used to call him the senator from MBNA because he was so in the pockets of the credit card companies on whose behalf he wrote the bankruptcy bill, which is the reason you still cannot discharge your student debt in bankruptcy. You have Joe Biden to thank for that. He's always been a corrupt asshole. He started his campaign bragging about working with segregationists and how they never called him boy. Why would the media has spent years trying to rehabilitate Joe Biden as, oh, well, the secret of his power is his empathy, his decency. Right. He has such a tragic life story and he's overcome it and it's given him empathy for it. Was all such nonsense if you actually looked at his record. These racist pronouncements, he's got a stutter. He's got a racist stutter. You're an ableist monster if you point out that Joe Biden in unguarded moments is offhandedly racist in ways that are so ingrained in him that he doesn't even think about it. And no matter how many times he creates a negative headline for himself, he said, well, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. He just can't help himself. And eventually they just said, okay, you don't say anything that we didn't script. That's how they finally put a stop to that. But yeah, he's an old asshole. He's angry about them taking him out because he's that much of a narcissist, in spite of what they tried to play up. Oh, the sacrifice for the country of Joe Biden. They had to force him out the door, and he's mad about it. So, fuck you guys. That's part of this too. I don't care. I don't care if it burns down the party. You didn't let my sundowning old ass run for a second term.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean that informs a lot of this, and a lot of this is self-preservation on his part, and protecting Hunter Biden from charges that could have been brought in connection with Burisma and Ukraine.
Sure.
Don't forget,
it was protecting the whole family. The whole family is involved in this. His brother. The Bidens are like a family of fucking carnies.
Yeah, of course. And don't forget, it was the Obama administration's policy that Ukraine will always be more important to Russia than it is to us. And so we're not willing to push this to a point where it can embroil us and our allies and the whole world, frankly, in a global war. That was the position of the Obama White House. Joe Biden's son gets a seat on a board for which he is totally unqualified.
Right.
We know that, emails exist 10% for the big guy. We know we have pretty good reason to believe that Biden himself was profiting from that. And now he's Rambo on Ukraine. Now he's willing to push us to World War III in a country that it was the position of his former administration that it's not worth it. So you're telling me that sequence of events doesn't lend itself to an investigation? Hey, what is your conflict here? Because this is a very serious thing. We're not talking about a gun charge or a tax charge here. I would pardon my son for all of that. I don't fault him for doing that. I would even do this. Like I said, I would be such a scumbag as to pardon my son. If I were Joe Biden, I would have done this anyway. So yes, I'm guilty as charged on that score. But this is much bigger than that. Now you're talking about you are covering for a potentially corrupt son of yours who exposes your own conflict of interest. See, I don't have those conflicts of interest.
I would say how much extra I have to pay for him to get shanked in there.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. So
that were
there
my
you have
son.
It.
Get him out of my hair. Good riddance.
Yeah. So yeah, it is quite the story. That was something that sort of emerged pretty quickly. This broke Sunday night. We gave our first takes on it, but we didn't really look as deep into the pardon. It's beyond the tax and the gun charge. It's for any offenses against the United States that he may or may not have committed or taken part in. So basically protecting him from any Republican investigation. All right, so let's take some more super chats and rumble rants while we're breaking here. DC, thanks for the $2. Breaking, Eminem is now king of South Korea. There you go. Thanks, DC. Appreciate that. Brent Yoendo Huckabee saying they need to build the third temple seems chill, right? Probably going to be when demonic UFOs, aliens, Tucker talked about get their introduction with the way things are going. Did he say that? Did he say they need to build a third temple? I must have missed that. Did you hear that?
No.
Yeah.
They have to build it. Oh, okay.
Wow.
So they're going to blow up the Al-Aqsa Mosque, huh?
Yeah. Brent Yoendo, thanks for the $2. Simpsons did that plot better. Which plot? I don't get that right. I've never watched The Simpsons that much. I was never a huge Simpsons guy. Michael Castillo, let's hit the sound drop.
We're getting
Michael
a lot
Castillo.
of baby on this show.
What's that?
Getting a lot of baby on this show.
Yeah. Michael Castillo says, let's hit the sound drop for Michael Castillo.
Okie doke.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. So I guess this means I can't afford a bunker now, so I have to go out like Linda Hamilton did in her dream scene in Terminator 2, feel the burn. Because you spent $50.
Who the hell are you? Are you Jesus Christ, you loser?
Yeah, there you go. German Condor, thanks for the $5. Could it be that China is planning on invading Taiwan and is setting up a communist coup to minimize American interference? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. That's some kind of theory there. Not enough information at this point.
4D chess.
4D chess, that's right. Landrew, thanks for the $100. Let's give Landrew a sound drop here and a cowbell. Landrew says, made a donation to BDS movement and my card company tried to stop it twice. Suspect charge.
Really?
Interesting. Third time was a charm. Free Palestine and 0% to the big guy. Like 0% to the big guy.
All right. You know what's crazy? On Facebook, they started dropping these honeypot videos of, young nubile IDF soldiers on my Facebook. So I kept saying things that probably I don't want to risk our channel by repeating here. And so it read it as engagement, and it kept giving me more and more. And I was like, I really don't want this in my feed. It's not worth the troll. So I started, they give you the option, show less of these ads, show less of these ads.
Right.
Yo, it made no difference. It made no difference. Like, they are being paid a lot of money by AIPAC, Mossad, whoever's slipping the cash to Zuckerberg. They are not handling ads that are pro-Israel the way they handle any other kinds of ads. Like, no matter what I do, they won't stop dropping.
They won't stop. Well, you also got to not engage, because I don't know if that.
Well, now that I did, now they're like, oh, you want to be a smartass, huh? We're going to give you 7 times the number of ads now.
Yeah. I am Landrew. Landrew is dead.
Well, thank you, Landrew. That's very kind of you. As always, sir. Appreciate that very, very much. German Condor, thanks for the $5, says the only major world power collapsing faster than the U.S. is China. Desperate governments resort to war. You think so? You think so? I don't know. I have to look into your theory there, German Condor. They seem pretty well positioned to me, especially with this new currency they got coming down the pike that Donald Trump's chest pounding doesn't seem on track to stop, to interfere with. All righty, let's move on, shall we? What do we got here? We got a couple more Rumble rants here that we can do. Nocturnal Human on Jackson Hinkle's new channel called Legitimate Targets. He interviewed someone who went to North Korea. Thank you, Nocturnal Human. Yeah, well, the majors did watch that.
I heard they all have those "you own me" park tits over there.
Yeah. South Korean films frequently depict scenes of sadomasochism and self-harm. I now understand why. Yeah, well, the horror
do.
films
Old Boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was rough. That's part of the trilogy. I think I've seen like 2 of 3 of those.
It's part of a trilogy.
I saw the one that was. Yeah, I saw the one. Yeah, like a rough trilogy, not like a literal, a thematic trilogy.
Right.
There was one about a woman. She goes to like women's prison. That one was they were both very good, but there's like a third in that series.
Yeah, no, Old Boy.
I'm sure our very smart viewers know what I'm talking about. Some of them, anyway.
Kenman G, Joe Rogan, but Yeomi told me North Korea was the problem. I'm confused. Let's talk about the vaccines and trans instead. Thank you, Kenman G. Appreciate that. Doc Durkin, tempting to martial law our 1% economic class now more visible and defund and debank them for greater 99%. Help pay off the national debt, too. Thank you, Doc Durkin. Can I get a birthday shout out? Of course, Kawaii Cowboy. Please and thank you. Love you guys. Happy birthday, Kawaii Cowboy. There you go. There's your shout out. We got to get a birthday sound drop so that we can drop a birthday sound drop when it's somebody's birthday. That's a good idea. Okay. All right, folks. So we're going to continue on here. We have some more fallout from the pardoning of Hunter Biden here. Here's we're not going to play this whole thing. This was 9 minutes, but we're going to play the first couple minutes of this media supercut of various anchors and pundits bragging about how, unlike Donald Trump, Joe Biden is a believer in the rule of law and therefore will not, he could not, he would not, and he will not pardon his son Hunter.
Promise to put the law, presidential promise to put the law before a family.
I said I abide by the jury decision. I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
Letting the world know that he will not wipe away the decision of 12 of his son's peers.
Was asked directly, and he has said he wouldn't pardon his son if he gets convicted.
Let's wait and see what happens if he loses.
Yeah, but I mean, but he said it.
He's going to get pardoned by his dad. There's no question about that.
The president has ruled out pardoning his son.
Major commitment from the president, accepting the outcome of the trial and also pledging not to pardon his son.
So the challenge for him is really to continue to live up to his values when it was really personal, and he did that today.
It seems like a pretty normal, straightforward answer, but it takes new weight when we see what Trump is saying about the outcome of his trial, what we're hearing from other Republicans who say they don't accept the jury's verdict here in New York.
The contrast is profound. To sit there and say, well, I'm not going to intervene in the legal process, and I wouldn't pardon my son. One side, Democrats and Joe Biden protecting the justice system. And on the other, Republicans and Trump protecting Trump.
Our current president of the United States
so excited
has so much respect for the law that he has said he would not pardon his son. I mean, what, again, it's all about the contrast.
President Biden saying, I will respect whatever this jury decides versus Donald Trump after he was convicted on 34 counts, saying the entire system is rigged against him.
Their latest attack has been that Joe Biden has politicized and weaponized the DOJ, right? That was the whole argument around Donald Trump's conviction. And this week, of course, Hunter Biden was found guilty, and Joe Biden has very clearly said he would not pardon his son, he would not commute his sentence. How stark is this difference? I mean, how can Republicans keep making this argument now that Joe Biden has really put it out there? Where's Hunter?
There you go. There you go. So
that's their job. That's their job. Go on there and just, really emote about the sanctity of our democracy and good guys over here and bad guys over there, and the Democrats are always good and the Republicans are always bad. That's it. It has almost no DNA left in common with actual news reporting.
Yeah,
this is state TV in every sense of the word.
So shout out to news.grabian.com. He put the watermark on that montage there. That was good work and quick work. But now, of course, singing a little bit of a different tune. So we're going to start out with the Never Trump Republican response to this. Joe Walsh, very, very upset, very hurt by this last-minute pardoning of the president's son.
What do you make of all of this? What is likely to be the response on Capitol Hill to this breaking news?
Good to be with you. See, I told you so. They're all like that. So the next time any of us complain about anything Trump does, this pardon is just deflating. For those of us who have been out there for a few years now yelling about what a unique threat Donald Trump is, for Joe Biden to do something like this, Trump, nobody's above the law, we've been screaming. Well, Joe Biden just made clear his son Hunter is above the law. Donald Trump lies every time he opens his mouth, we've been screaming. Joe Biden repeatedly lied about this. The politicization of the justice system, Donald Trump and his people have been screaming.
All right. Up next, the Pod Save guys, So we heard from a Never Trump Republican. Now we'll hear from the go-to lib podcast, the command center itself, Pod Save America. Here's their take.
What's strange about this is A, it comes now. B, there's no acknowledgement in the statement that part of the rationale should be that Donald Trump is about to become president, right? The statement is very kind of like imperious.
Or sympathy-inducing.
He's been sober for a long time. There's a lot of people on whom like the gears of justice have like turned while they were trying desperately to maintain their sobriety, and no pardons for them.
Can I just point out too, on that point, when Joe Biden decided to run in 2019, Hunter had already gone through a lot of these challenges. And so the time you could make a decision that would protect Hunter Biden from the kind of political glare and from Republican attacks was then.
I think that Joe Biden is a tragic figure. He has shown incredible decency at times, and I really feel for what he's gone through and what his family has gone through. They've gone through hell. Like, none of us can imagine what they've gone through. But, like, his ego, again and again, has, like, gotten in the way. And when push comes to shove, it's like, well, I'm going to do what's good for, I'm going to run for president again, even though it's fucking crazy to do that. And like, I shouldn't do it and blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to do it, and now we're all here. And like, this to me is like in that category.
All right. And
yeah,
finally,
no, totally. It's just his ego. He is not a monster that collaborated with segregationists to lock up 2 generations of the black and brown people that white libs like you claim to care about so much. He's not somebody who sexually assaulted Tara Reid with the Time's Up people jumping up to defend him on command and having a lot to do with the fact that people don't take Me Too seriously anymore in the process, really undermining credibility for a lot of women who needed that support. No, it's not that. It's his ego. It's his ego. It's understandable. It's tragic, actually.
Well, here's Chuck Todd now taking it a step further, saying Biden should have probably never run for president at all. That's his implication there. So Chris Cillizza tweets out, I talk to Chuck Todd every Monday for my newsletter. Wow, that's an exciting show you got there. Every week you talk to Chuck Todd. It's always a good conversation, but I thought he nailed it today on why the Hunter Biden trial really mattered.
Mean, look, we have a lot of people, ourselves included, who are very skeptical of, a lot of kind of DEI formulations. If this is not an example of a mediocre white man getting a position that only a mediocre white man could possibly have, I don't know what is. I don't know what is. What fucking qualifications does Chuck Todd have to comment on anything?
Well,
Could anyone this mediocre who is not a white man get this job?
Yeah, well, he's a regular on the Chris Cillizza Substack newsletter show here. But here's he nailed it on why the Hunter Biden trial really mattered when thinking about the Biden presidency and the pardon. Watch the whole thing at the link in the bio. Well, thanks, but no thanks, Chris. We'll be happy with just this sample here. But here's Chuck Todd taking it a step further than the pod safe guys.
I follow the Hunter Biden trial very closely. Mm-hmm. I read every transcript, all the testimony, because that's what all that was made public. And there is, you want to read, you want to get angry, just as somebody in just all these mixed emotions. You read the Hallie Biden transcript, and that's Bo's widow.
Yes.
And essentially he turned her into a crack addict,
and then he turned her out.
And this was all happening in 2017, 2018. And Joe Biden,
he ran a train.
Were so concerned about their family that they decided to run for president.
Yep.
Let's hear that one.
Transcript, all the testimony, because that's what all that was made public. And there is, you want to read, you want to get angry, just as somebody in just all these mixed emotions. You read the Hallie Biden transcript, and that's Bo's widow.
Yes.
And essentially he turned her into a crack addict. And this was all happening in 2017, 2018. And Joe Biden were so concerned about their family that they decided to run for president.
Yep.
When you talk about the word selfish, it's almost like the word doesn't, their decision to run for president put the entire Democratic Party and the United States of America in the position that it's in now.
Wow.
All right. So
strong words from Chuck Todd there. That is pretty strong words.
That's very strong words. He doesn't mean a fucking thing that he says. Clearly, they have been told it's open season on Joe Biden. You can say what you want, and you know what? That motherfucker fucked us. Go for it.
Well,
and
that
will.
Means,
if they had gotten the call, you need to spin this the other way. That's what they would be doing. They're performers. They're a circus act.
This is what they thought the whole time. This is clearly what they thought the whole time. This was the obvious truth the whole time. So he does mean what he says. He doesn't mean it. He means it.
Well, I mean,
of course he means it. This is what they've meant. This is what they've thought of Joe Biden since 2019. That's why they ran 25 guys against him, hoping one of them could beat Bernie and not him.
Sure.
They've thought this about Biden forever. Forever.
Yes.
That's why he didn't run in 2016.
To put it another way, that's not why they're telling you that. They're telling you that because they were given permission to tell you that.
Well, of course. But this is obviously what they mean. It's obviously what they mean.
Yeah.
What we're seeing here, folks, as we'll see, I'm going to run through these exhibits first here. Congressman Greg Landsman, as a father, I get it. But as someone who wants people to believe in public service again, it's a setback. So here's a Democratic congressman, and he doesn't quite get ratioed for this, which tells you the tide has turned, but he got some pushback. With the amount of unethical shit in the incoming administration is about to do, I really don't want to hear any sideways opinions about what Biden did. It's crazy that one party is forced to adhere to standards and norms, while the other party is allowed to routinely trample them. That ship sailed years ago. Get on board. Anthony Richards, sit your coward ass down somewhere and shut the fuck up, clown. That's what's wrong with you Dems. You're fucking cowards. disagree. You want to play nice while MAGA plays dirty and is always on the offensive while Dems are playing defensive. If we want to win elections going forward, being Mr. Rogers is a losing strategy. Okay, so what this Hunter Biden pardon is the nail in the coffin of resistance liberalism. The death of resistance liberalism was Trump winning last month. This was the nail in the coffin, because now you're seeing rank and file liberals and Democrats going the only place they can go, which I don't really blame them for going here, which is, hey, those norms and those guardrails, which we cared so much about, those are all bullshit. And we've been saying for years on like a more populist left lane that those are all bullshit and have been bullshit for a very long time. Don't forget the Bill Clinton pardon of Mark Rich. I mean, this guy was basically a traitor. This guy was negotiating with the Iranians during the hostage thing. So, like, yes, it's always been a giant swamp. Hey, to borrow a word from our once and future king, right? And so now the liberals are just forced to accept that. They're forced to agree with that, because if they can't go there, then they gotta just totally abandon every political leader they've ever admired. So the only place left to go is a place that makes perfect sense, like, honestly, which is, hey, it's a dirty game. So let's not clutch our pearls every time a norm is violated. Let's understand, norms are violated all the time. The country is a crock of bullshit. That's all it's ever been. And they're finally forced to reckon with that. And so this is it. The resistance ends right now.
Is that really where they're going? They're trying to put it on Biden. They're not making a systemic argument. They're making a Biden argument.
What they're saying is all bets are off now. All bets are off because Trump won. We have a president now who abuses the rule of law, who doesn't care about the rule of law. So why should we care, right? Why should we care? They're giving up. This is why Joe Walsh was so upset. We've been saying forever, and the media's been saying forever, that we're the ones who care about these things, and God damn it, Trump doesn't, and we have to save the system from Trump. Now that Trump won, they're like, I guess the country doesn't care about these things, so you know what? Maybe we shouldn't either. Maybe it's not that important. Maybe politics is about power. Maybe it's about winning and wielding power. And that's what Trump has done, and now they figured out, a few weeks too late, too bad, tear down the side of my cheek, that they have to play that game as well. And I mean, the whole underpinning of everything they've been saying for the last 8 years, like I said, it was destroyed on November 5th. This just puts the nail in it. There's no coming back from it.
I mean, that's true.
Forever.
I think they're doing something that is pretty predictable, and it's not out of line with other things they've done in the past. They're throwing Biden under the bus. They're trying to distance themselves from Biden. That doesn't require any kind of a drastic change in narrative. However, because Trump won now, and because of the position Biden put them in, they would love to keep screaming about rules and norms. They just can't. That's what they're bitching about. They're not going to be able to because Biden fucked them in the ass. Done. And now they just don't even know what they're going to talk about. Look, a lot of this is what I mean.
It's over. It's over. That whole line of argument is over.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of his, but every now and then he does make a pretty insightful observation. Konstantin Kassin just dropped a video about how, yes, the access media, the corporate media, yes, their clear biases have definitely hurt their business and made a lot of people walk away. But that's really not the core thing that's going on here. And he explained, I think very well, that, look, it used to be that you had these media companies that curated the news for you and selected certain people with certain opinions or certain reporters, and you went to these trusted sources for that news. But in a world with the technology where every person can have a blog and every person can have a de facto TV station in their house, like us, right? There's no need for that kind of curation, and we're moving toward a world where you don't just call a cab, you call for a big car, a small car, this kind of driver, that kind of driver. What's happening in the media is a natural extension of that. where people are not going to accept that kind of curation anymore. They're just going to go where they want to go. They have been fighting that for years by trying to say, YouTube is radicalizing people. Remember, there was that whole New York Times expose the libs were all sharing around. And that's what it's all been about, because they've seen, they have been the Neanderthals looking at the Cro-Magnons coming over the horizon and desperately trying to stop the horde from killing them. And now we're here. Like, this was the election where it really tipped. So yeah, you have this whole ideological thing, but it's really what's going on behind the scenes is people who had an enormous amount of cultural power, an enormous amount of cultural cachet, who are seeing it all fall apart and have no idea what they're going to do with themselves without that power. And hey, with that power came a lot of money. Who's going to keep paying these people for this kind of bullshit? Who wants it? Who's going to want that?
Well, I mean, I think now on a bigger level too, the argument completely shifts. They can no longer prosecute the kind of case against Trump that they wanted to. And by they, I mean the Karen Finneys and the Chuck Todds and the Chris Cillizas and the Joe Walshes and even the PodSave guys. The PodSave guys are a little wonkier, but now they're going to have to become more wonkier, because now what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to resist Donald Trump the way you should have resisted him from day one, which is on a policy level. You attack his policies if his policies are bad for people, and you counter that with forming policies that are good for people. That's what politics is. Crying about how he is too disruptive to the tone and tenor of Washington, D.C. is doomed to fail from day one, and now it has. And now on the way out the door at the last minute, Biden makes that case inarguable. It was always a bad argument, but it was an argument. It was arguable. Now it's inarguable, which means this is it. The resistance, it's done.
At least it's an
over.
ethos.
It's over. Right, exactly. At least it's an ethos. Now it's not even an ethos. It's over. They cannot do this anymore. And this is the silver lining heading into what I think are going to be a very, very tumultuous and traumatic 4 years for a lot of people in this country, legitimately. We're not just talking about libs getting triggered. You're talking about a policy set that could potentially be extremely disruptive in negative ways for a lot of people. Mass deportations, gutting of the social safety net, agitating for World War III with Iran on the Israel front. Even if you believe what he says he's going to do in Ukraine, which doesn't look like he's too serious about ending the war in Ukraine, Israel, that's an inroad into World War III as well. And that seems to be cooking awful hot under Donald Trump's White House. And so that's where you have to go. You cannot just continue to clutch your pearls about how he is undermining faith in institutions and norms. That all ends. And there is no chance that could be resuscitated now. I think it is dead and buried, which is a good thing. So on that score, I'm happy he did it.
When you fuck a stranger in the ass.
Exactly. On that score, I'm also happy that he did it. I think it's a good development overall that he did this, because now
it took away their last fig leaf.
Now they're completely out of our way. And we got into this. We started getting into this in our Michael Tracey interview. We didn't get into it as much as I wanted to, but he mentioned how the resistance libs have become this irrelevant faction and how that's a good thing. And it is a good thing. And I agree it's a good thing. Part of why I agree it's a good thing is because now we get to actually go at the right the way we've always wanted to. Like the libs always complain, what nasty, mean Bernie bros. You're so vicious. We're like, hey, we're offering you our services for free. All this ire, all this venom that we spew at you, we're willing to spew it at the actual right, at the self-proclaimed right. I think of the liberals as right wing, but we're willing to take this fight to them. But you got to give us the ball. They just wouldn't give us the ball. And what created a lot of really bad blood was the realization that they'd rather lose to the right than give us the ball. Now we've got the ball because they have nothing anymore. They're out of the game. Right. That's it. They've got the hook.
The liberals have completely destroyed every ounce of institutional power that anything resembling a left wing had. They are like a plague of locusts that has just completely destroyed left politics by seizing it for themselves. And yes, their collapse opens up space to construct a real left. You couldn't construct a real left without that collapse.
Exactly.
So on that level, celebrate.
Exactly. Yep. Could not have said that better myself. All right. We got some more super chats over here. What do we got here? Gareth Richmond says other board members of Burisma included John Kerry's campaign manager and the CIA chief for Africa under George W. Bush. Hunter's official position at Burisma was advisor on ethical business practices. LOL. Wow, that's quite the cast of characters there. I didn't know that. I had heard something about Kerry, about a Kerry associate. I did not know about the chief of for Africa under George W. Bush. I hadn't heard that, so thank you. Brent Yoendo, whoops, it was Pete Hegseth, Trump's national security defense pick, that actually said they needed to build a third temple. Not sure that's more comforting. Yeah, no, not quite. Not quite. But thank you for the clarification.
No, we should all be celebrating these cabinet picks because the libs don't like them. Right. Yeah, that's a reason. Never mind that these are a bunch of fucking dangerously unstable psychopaths.
Yeah.
It's gonna get ugly.
Eric Rousseau, Trump has done things and stuff. Such a horrible man. Yeah, he said things and done different things. Who's the top and who's the bottom in the Destiny Fuentes affair? Nazis on top. Apparently not. I haven't seen the tape, but I don't know. That's a technical conversation. I'll have to look that up. Ken Texican, thanks for the $49. Let's have a cowbell for Ken Texican. He always does this to avoid the cowbell, I think. He gives us 49 and then 1. Keep calling out the gangsters on 1600 Penn Avenue, whether they're Trump GOP or Biden POG, Party of Genocide. I like that. Always return to Russ D and Max B, Rage Against the War Machine, RE, the trash we vote for. Those speeches, yes. Very good speeches. Thank you for Ken Texican for that very generous comment and donation. He also adds here, give me 100 random people from any city or township in America. I'll let DD screen the sample, and I bet 10 of those guys, gals, humanoids would do better as president than a GOP or POG candidate. I like that play on acronyms, GOP and then POG in reverse, Party of Genocide. I like that. That's good.
Nice.
Nicely done.
Nicely done, yes.
All righty. So, folks, we're going to take a quick break. And by break, I mean a break for Russell and I's voice, because we have some footage to play for you from our interview with Michael Tracey, which we conducted yesterday morning. Our paid Substackers, Locals members, and Patreon members got live stream access to that. We had a nice little crowd in there watching it live. We took one of the fan questions after the interview. That full interview is going to be premiering on YouTube and Rumble at 8 o'clock tonight. But we do have a piece of that interview that we're going to play for you now. And this stems from Tracey's recent article, Is Trump a Neocon? So Michael was a great guest. We appreciate him taking time for us. It was a fairly long interview. Like I said, it's about an hour and 40 minutes.
It was a great interview.
So it was really good. It was really good. And we're very grateful that he took the time. This piece here is about 16 minutes long. This is a sample from our interview. The full thing premieres tonight. But we thought this was a great piece of it that we wanted to play for you guys on the stream. So we will mute up and full screen this, and we'll be back in 16 minutes, but you got plenty to hold you over between now and then. Lee wrote a piece on your Substack. Is Donald Trump a neocon? And you put neocon in quotes for good reason. We're just going to read the first paragraph here. The time has come to retire the term neocon. While this ignoble moniker may have once described an identifiable ideological tendency and even a tangible elite-driven political movement, neocon has come to be used almost exclusively as a nebulous slur, always a telltale sign of a term's diminishing utility. To label someone a neocon now most commonly functions as a sort of political pump fake with a phantom blob of quote-unquote neocons always allegedly conniving to undermine Donald Trump, or whom Trump always finds himself accidentally empowering despite his best instincts. I like that line. This self-serving formulation presents Trump as having divergent interests with the reviled neocons, even as Trump consistently installs them to prominent government positions and pursues their preferred policy objectives. So I think this example here, focusing in on this term neocon, and you argue it's sort of becoming an obsolete term. I think this is one of many examples where a lot of people see in Trump what they want to see, and they sort of willfully ignore what they don't want to see, even if it's hidden in plain sight. So is Trump, functionally speaking, in your view, a neocon? And how would his cabinet picks reflect his political ideology, which seems pretty elusive, especially when you contrast the messaging of the campaign versus how the cabinet's shaping up?
Well, in the piece, I say that I am not asserting that Trump is a neocon, only because the term neocon, as you alluded to, has totally outlived its use. The term neocon makes sense if you're only as like a historical reference point at this juncture, I think, because there was an organized elite neoconservative movement that got especially focused on foreign policy in like the 90s and 2000s. Prior to that, they had been probably more focused on domestic policy around crime and so forth. They congregated around Commentary magazine. There were some neoconservative types that were in positions that had to do with foreign policy as well. But like in the late 90s, early 2000s, they came very much focused on how to leverage that unique so-called unipolar moment where the U.S. was the undisputed and only superpower and was an untouchable hegemon, and how to use that power to how to exert that power across the world and to promote American primacy. But now you see it used so kind of flippantly and casually and inaccurately, where it basically comes to mean anybody who seems to have belligerent foreign policy views who I also don't like. And that's just not a particularly useful definition of what a neocon is, because if that's your definition, or if you're using such a kind of lazy shorthand definition, then I fail to see how Donald Trump himself could not be a neocon. So, for example, his incoming Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, is much more of a committed foreign policy interventionist than even Trump's first Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson. When Trump first came into office in 2017, he had a Secretary of State who was kind of drawn from this sort of more hazily apolitical corporate milieu. Rex Tillerson was the CEO of ExxonMobil. He certainly didn't have a career of hardcore interventionist foreign policy convictions and commitments like Marco Rubio does. So just drawing that comparison, the second incoming administration is more quote-unquote neocon than the first. Now, again, I don't think neocon is a useful label to describe any of this, but I'm just trying to like use the logic of people who just kind of toss the term around now to say that, like, if this is like the capriciousness with which you're going to use the term, how could it not apply to Trump? I mean, even George W. Bush himself was probably not an ideological neocon. And he elevated people into positions of power in his administration who had ideologically neoconservative views. But like George W. Bush was never somebody who like wrote essays on neoconservatism as like an ideological construct or something.
Or essays at all.
Yeah, essays at all.
Right.
He's not going to be launching a Substack any day, anytime soon. Yeah.
Yeah. He was just the vehicle through which the so-called neocons were able to attain power. And that's also true to some degree with Trump. Again, unless Marco Rubio, for instance, no longer counts as a neocon. In which case, who does? Like, I doubt even Marco Rubio would self-declare as a neocon at this point, or I doubt even Lindsey Graham would. I don't think anybody really in elected office would define themselves in 2024 as a quote-unquote neocon, but they still have the underpinnings of the worldview that people would have associated with the neocon worldview. They've just rebranded, and they now all subscribe to America First, including Lindsey Graham. So if Lindsey Graham is able to jettison this label of neocon and brand himself as America First, and it's widely accepted. I mean, Trump endorsed Lindsey Graham in 2020 for Lindsey Graham's reelection. He won handily. Lindsey Graham was actually the first U.S. senator to endorse Trump's third campaign for 2024 as far back as I think like early 2022.
Yep.
And so that tells you that they have shared interests, right? And that's reflected by Trump nominating Marco Rubio for Secretary of State, Mike Waltz for National Security Advisor, another hardcore interventionist who rebranded as America First, Elise Stefanik for UN Ambassador, who just, again, rebrands as America First, but in, the not so distant past, would have been associated with quote unquote neoconservative think tanks and other institutions. But now because she just kisses Trump's ass so flamboyantly, people just, put that by the wayside, I guess. And, even Pete Hegseth, who is the Secretary of Defense nominee, he claims that he has repudiated
a man whose own mother accuses him of abusing women.
You get me too'd by your own mother. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it is interesting that this is like neither here nor there for the Neocon issue, but it is interesting that like you can't really pin this down to a typical Me Too attempt, because the people who have leveled the accusations are like conservative women. It seems the event at which he was accused of sexually assaulting somebody was like a California Republican Women's Federation event, where he was brought in as a guest speaker as like, the hallowed Fox News personality that he is, and then his own mother. I mean, so I don't know. I do kind of try to stick to due process on this, and it is true that he was never charged for the 2017 incident, and who knows what a mother might say or not say in like the heat of like a divorce or something. So more significant,
forgot to get her a Christmas card that year or something.
Yeah, more significant, I think, is the fact that like Pete Hegseth, he has now. I mean, when he was nominated by Trump, people quickly dug up a clip of him on some dopey podcast from a few weeks ago, or I think from last month, from October sometime. When he says, "I've been a recovering neocon for the past 6 years." What does that mean? Like, what does that substantively mean? To me, it means primarily that any ambitious Republican is rebranding in 2024 because they don't want to be associated with the neocon moniker, but they don't really revise their underlying views on much of anything. I mean, it's not like this bold pronouncement of like political wisdom to say that you no longer think it was a good idea to invade Iraq.
Right.
John McCain repudiated the Iraq war on his deathbed in 2018. So, if anything, Pete Hegseth seems to be a more unrepentant Iraq war supporter than even John McCain. In 2016, Pete Hegseth wrote a whole book. Like my next article, I'm going to do a little bit of a book survey of like Pete Hegseth's massive corpus of work, which it's amazing that he's written so many books. And I think he probably has written them at least largely by himself. I'm sure he might have had some help, but he's an intelligent enough person, so he's like somebody who actually can write at length, unlike a George W. Bush. And maybe I shouldn't give short shrift to George W. Bush. You could probably force him to sit down and like write 500 words or something. But Pete Hegseth in 2016, as late as 2016, was wrote an entire book's worth of apologetics for the Iraq War, which he made his career out of lobbying for. So he wasn't just like some casual supporter. He did serve in Iraq. Then he came home and founded a group called Veterans for Freedom that got funding from the likes of Sheldon Adelson, was advised by Bill Kristol back when he was still in good favor with Republicans, and like ran ads supporting pro-Iraq war candidates and opposing candidates who were deemed to be insufficiently supportive of the Iraq war. By 2016, he writes this book, bombastically declaring the wisdom of the Iraq war and like blaming Democrats for, Obama, for snatching defeat from the jaws of victory.
The Vietnam argument.
Yeah. And not showing any sign of remorse or repentance about the Iraq war. And here's the kicker. By 2015, so the very early stages of the Republican primary, even Jeb Bush had already been compelled to say that he would not have invaded Iraq. So that makes Pete Hegseth even more of a recalcitrant supporter of the Iraq war than Jeb Bush. But now we're supposed to give him credit or believe that he's had some amazing epiphany because he blurts out on a podcast, I'm a recovering neocon, as if that means anything. So I guess this all boils down to say the term neocon no longer has any descriptive utility for contemporaneous developments in American politics. It works as a historical reference point for like actual neoconservative groupings, but right now it just obscures more than it reveals, and it, usually for the purpose of absolving Trump of responsibilities somehow for the people he constantly puts into power.
Right.
All right. You have been all over the Trump cabinet picks. We've actually, I thank you for your service, because we always look, whenever he announces a cabinet pick, we look at your Twitter. You almost always have something about it. You point us in the right direction.
Yeah, we literally search your name
to look at. Literally.
Stuff, yeah.
Now, our theory, as this has taken shape, has been these cabinet picks are a combination of Miriam Adelson's list, a la Citibank and Obama, and people that they're throwing out there to appease the MAGA base without ever intending for these people to be confirmed, while they have their real pick standing behind them, as in the case of Matt Gaetz. Anyone who knew anything knew there was absolutely no way he was getting confirmed, and that's why they had Pam Bondi ready to go. Now, I don't attribute such a subtle tactical mind to Donald Trump. I think he's mostly just demonstrated complete laziness about the details of governance. I think he likes to put on stadium shows. He's not really interested in the details. I would credit this with the people around him who are making these decisions. But it looks to me like the ones that they plan to confirm are the Miriam Adelson ones, and the ones that get the MAGA people excited are never intended to be confirmed. What do you think about that theory?
Well, I often roll my eyes at explanations for Trump's conduct that tries to ascribe to him some multidimensional chess move.
Yes, right.
However,
chess, yeah.
Right. And I think at this point we're up to like 750 dimensional chess.
Yeah.
So, but I do admit that when the Gaetz announcement was made, the announcement that Trump was going to nominate Gaetz was made, and I got the email in my inbox from the official Trump Vance transition account, my instant thought was, there's no way that Gaetz is going to be confirmed. Like, what is this about?
Right.
And it was strange because it did seem like that Trump must have known that Gaetz was not going to get confirmed. Like, Trump is nothing if not politically astute, politically shrewd. And it would seem strange to kind of squander some of his post-election political capital when it's probably at its peak of his entire career, as it is right now, on an obviously doomed pick, because it shows that Trump can nominate someone, and even in the Republican-controlled Senate, he can't get them through. And so I think that was like a chink in the armor of Trump's post-election kind of honeymoon period, which was strange. And it was definitely strange that Gaetz immediately resigned from the House of Representatives.
Right.
When he could have just stayed in all. I mean,
sure.
Nothing would have stopped, even if he had to like go through another month and a half of confirmation stuff. There was no reason. They could have still scheduled a special election at some point in the future, and he could have remained in office.
Sure.
Right.
Like, that's what Waltz and Stefanik and people are all doing. I mean, they're nominated for positions that will require their resignation from Congress, essentially. Eventually.
And he had to know that his confirmation was dodgy. Maybe he just wanted to go to Cameo. Maybe that was
and then he announced that he's not going to take the seat to which he's been reelected.
Right.
So he was eligible. He still is eligible if he wants to take on January 3rd his seat back in Congress, because he only resigned. His resignation is only applicable for the remainder of this current congressional term, which expires on January 3rd. So that is all odd. Now, I guess if like Trump could wave a magic wand and get Matt Gaetz into the Attorney General's role, he probably would do so. but it is very odd. So I mean, I think there might be something to what you're suggesting. But I don't know. I think people are so. But I think it's probably true that Trump wants to get Kash Patel into the FBI role of FBI director, and does that excite the quote base, or just excite people who think that Trump is anti-establishment and is going to destroy the deep state? Yes. And I'm not sure it's fair to say that that's just like some kind of feint or just some kind of like false promise or something, and like they know Kash Patel isn't going to get confirmed. Like, you got to think at some point Trump actually is going to deploy his political capital on behalf of these selections.
All right, to be continued this evening. You just got to unmute your microphone.
All right. We left you on a cliffhanger there.
Little cliffhanger there, yeah. That's
we took our inspiration from the end of Wicked.
Yeah, exactly. That's how the business works. Little cliffhanger there. It's funny. We didn't get into this yesterday so much, and we didn't get into this when we did the Kash Patel segment, which I meant to, which is our predictions about him being confirmed. I don't see how he's going to get confirmed. I think Murkowski, Collins, and McConnell will vote no. At that point, you only need one more. There's that guy, Mike Rounds from South Dakota, is already saying, well, we'll have to see. That's never a good sign. That could be it right there. That guy, with all the declassifying the 9/11 and the Epstein and the JFK, how do they let that fucking guy through?
This has been my theory. That's what I presented to Michael, that none of these people are intended to be confirmed, and it's perfect. It's the perfect plan, because we saw it with Gates. No one's talking about Bondi. Everyone's talking about, the deep state stopped Gates. Well, they knew that. They knew that. What? There's nobody who's reformist who is not absolutely hated by their colleagues to the point that there is zero chance they'd get confirmed. Nobody.
Right.
Nobody. The person you pick as your backup is this maniac. Is this former lobbyist who wants the FBI to question protesters? That was the pick. Bondi was the pick. And we will see as these picks go down, as I suspect they will, who's waiting in the wings to replace them. Are they going to be more confirmable reformers, or is it going to be more like Bondi?
Apparently, if I knew this was going to come up in conversation, maybe I would have looked this up. But apparently, I read something that said Trump interviewed another person before he picked Kash Patel for FBI. He wasn't gonna snub Kash Patel altogether. He was gonna give him something else. But he had another pick for FBI director who just didn't interview well, so they
Office of Janitorial Staff.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. I wish I had those names for you. I don't recall them.
I'm sorry. I just have to say, because you got some people who are very ginned up about Kash Patel because he said bad things about bad people, and good for him. And the man wrote a fucking children's book about himself as a wizard fighting to save King Donald. Nothing like this doesn't seem like a crazy wacko who should not be anywhere near any kind of powerful position ever to you. Really? Like, that's somebody you think is a serious person who is not going to see their role as FBI director as to protect Donald Trump and serve the interests of Donald Trump. And is that what you want? Like, is that your idea of not corrupt? That's your idea of cleaning up the FBI? Like, just because you've gotten rid of people who are corrupt, if you replace it with just another kind of corruption and possibly a worse kind of corruption, what good is that? What good is that? Like, is the enemy of your enemy always your friend by definition?
Well, we do get into, you made a little graphic with the children's book. We do get into that with Michael Tracey. So you will see more discussion of Patel. Actually, we do a whole segment on him in this interview.
I'm sorry.
Premiering tonight.
I'm more used to saying this to the libs. Okay, so pretend that Harris had won, and she's nominating an FBI director who screams about how we are not prioritizing Israel enough, and that's in the interview too, and wrote a children's book about themselves as a self-insert protecting Queen Kamala. They from the Daily Wire to the hallowed halls of West Virginia Timcast studio, they'd be screaming about that shit for 6 months. For 6 months. In this case, nothing to see here. That's what the libs do, right? One rule for me, another for thee. I'm sorry if you attach this fact. You care so much about freedom of speech. You got the appointed attorney general who said openly she wants to question protesters for being pro-Palestine. And now you're talking about an FBI director who says we're not prioritizing Israel enough. Not enough. Nothing. This is a triumph of the people? Is it? Really? Okay, so this is what I always told libs in similar situations where I just felt like I was taking fucking crazy pills listening to them. I want you to squint. And attach this fact pattern to a theoretical Harris administration. I want you to think about what you'd be saying about it. Now say that about this, because that's what you should be saying.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're right. And like I said, there's more on Kash Patel, more on the cabinet appointees, more on the election. We get a little bit into Cenk's recent tweeting because Michael used to work for him. And so it was a great interview. It was a lot of fun. It's about an hour and 40 minutes. And so there's plenty of stuff you have not seen yet. That was just a little peek. And we hope you guys tune in tonight. Now, if you are a paid member, you likely have already seen that interview because we streamed it live for our members. And so now is a good time to shout out our support. If you like what we're doing here, you can help us do more of it by going to patreon.com/DoDissidents, DoDissidents.substack.com, or you can join our locals. So those 3 links there, you got 3 choices: Patreon, Substack, or locals. The one we're pushing now is, of course, the locals. Locals is connected to Rumble. It's a free speech supporter membership platform. So DoDissidents.locals.com if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching on Rumble right now, super easy to join our locals community. There's a big bright red join button underneath the video player. If you click that, you could sign up for as little as $5 a month. You get live stream access to pre-recorded interviews just like that one. You also get your name up in lights here on the show credits. You get call-in access to every Sunday night Q&A, which take place on Rumble after the main show. You also get supporter streams, movie club nights, live streams of special live events. We live streamed our live show in New York City. You're going to get live stream access to our arts festival, which is going to be in the spring of 2025. And so we do make it worth your while. So DoDissidents.locals.com. For just $5 a month, you help support this program and keep us sustainable and censor-proof. So you guys are the backbone of the show. We thank you very much, of course, for your support. Let's take some more Rumble rants here. Keaton for president 2028. Honest enough to pardon his son even without his hand in the Pentagon's cookie jar. Thank you. Yes. I would just come in, pardon my kids, and then I would step down. That's what I would do as my active president. I would get sworn in.
Can you pardon for future crimes?
That's a good question. I don't know. Oh. That'd be interesting. I don't know.
I don't think they did shit yet.
Yeah, that's true. True. So maybe I'll have to wait, 20 years or so. But thank you back from the road.
Right. When I went over the house, I hated what those kids were watching on TV so much. I made them watch Wuthering Heights.
Yeah.
They weren't into it.
I think they're watching Transformers now. They like Transformers. I was never into Transformers.
Like the movies?
Yeah.
The movies
and the cartoons. They like them both. Back from the road, World War III has absolutely started. Fallout, Red Dawn, or Terminator. Yeah.
Hey, listen, man. I mean, I'm seriously looking at getting a place up in Buffalo over the summer, and part of my consideration is totally fresh water outside the fallout zone.
There you go. Furrow Screen Fire Dancer, welcome to the Do Dissidents Parenting Hour. On one hand, we have Keaton, who I hope my parents would side with, and on the other hand, we have Russell, who I would go with if I wasn't a cat woman. There you go. Thank you, Furrow Screen. Appreciate that.
I love cats.
Russell does love cats. That's true.
I miss my little guy, Mortimer. I miss him.
Yep, he was a good fellow. John M. in Minnesota, political article, Biden Inc. came out in August 2019. The family influence peddling has been well known for a while. That's correct. Absolutely.
That's somebody here, I just want to say, said, Do Dissidents must be making good money, I assume, in response to the Buffalo thing. You should look at the home values in Buffalo. That's part of it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
It's got to be like the last cheap real estate in America. It's like nothing up there.
Well, they got buried. On Thanksgiving, they got buried in snow.
Yeah, well, that whole region did.
Yeah.
From what I understand about Buffalo, there's a weird thing where the north side gets less snow than the south side.
Well, it's all
like
lake
by
effect,
a matter
right?
of feet.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, a lot of it gets channeled to the south. But yeah, no, you can get a 2-family house there for $150,000.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. Good football team too. Bills are kicking ass this year, so that's exciting.
Are they?
Yeah, 10-2. Up here is kind of Bills country as much as it is Jets and Giants, because we're kind of equidistant. Not quite. Buffalo's still further, but the further north you are, the less associated people are with the city. So they'll root for the Buffalo team up here. A lot of Bills fans up here. Hillary Hinton says, important question, how's this martial law thing going to impact Hawkeye and Trapper? Thank you, Hillary Hinton. Appreciate that. Let's go over here to the YouTube super chats here. Threads Aravich, I don't know. You're cut off there with characters on your screen name. Why don't you guys like money or justice or victory? We love money and justice and victory.
Yeah,
I like all three.
Well, like that was what we were originally going to call the show.
Yeah, money, justice, and victory.
It didn't score well with test audiences.
Yep. John Freese says for $9.99 says, hi guys, it is hard to get an answer from y'all or RBN on this, but I will try again. What do you think of the ACP program? Also, what about an interview of Midwestern Marks folks or Haas from Infrared? I would love to interview Midwestern Marks, actually. We've talked about that. He's on our list, and we've been, somewhat in touch with him. He's tweeted at us a desire to come on, and we do want to have him.
Yeah, we keep meaning to have him on for a while now.
I have not read their program. Tusker just messaged me a link to their website, so maybe she's watching and she saw the super chat. So now I'll have to read up and get back to you. I've not read their actual program, like any of their campaign, like literature or party pamphlets.
It's the best way to join a movement.
Yeah, exactly.
The less you know, the better.
The less you know, the better. We covered their mutual aid drive with Shama, and I thought that was a great thing to do. I gave them props for that. I like Eddie, and so yeah, I would be happy to talk to them. But I have not actually read the program, so I don't suspect that's a tremendously satisfying answer, but it's an honest one, and I will read it now that I have the link. So that's great. Sandy Uhuru, thanks for the $5. Biden should pardon Uhuru 3. Yeah, convicted for conspiring to be Russian agents. Black activists to be imprisoned for speaking versus war sentencing on the 16th. Yeah, we are going to cover that between now and then. And actually, I might want to have them on between now and then.
That would be the first time a Biden ever wanted to let a black person out of jail.
Yeah, exactly. Be a nice change of pace. But it's interesting. Tucker has interviewed O'Malley. Tucker advocated for O'Malley on his Joe Rogan interview. And if Tucker has Trump's ear, that would be an interesting pardon for Trump. Trump, it wouldn't be totally out of left field for him to do something like that.
It's true.
So that could be something. I think Trump is more likely to pardon the Uhuru 3 than Biden.
I fully agree with that. I completely agree.
Much more. So fair is fair, obviously. Okay, let's move on. We got a few more segments to do here before we close the lights today. Still plenty of show, everybody. 1,400 strong on YouTube, 1,100 strong on Rumble. A very equally divided chat today. That's good to see. Hit that like button wherever you are. Hit that follow button on Rumble. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube, please. And we will continue on with the program. So next up, we got Bernie and DOGE, correct?
We do. Okay, so we always want to be fair on this show. And part of being fair has been to be honest about some of Trump's cabinet choices. But we made a point of saying with Vivek and Elon with DOGE. Well, they're not going to go after the Pentagon, but hey, we would love to be proven wrong. Now, of course, it's one thing to say something. It's another thing to do it. But they're actually bringing up the subject, which I am pleasantly surprised about, honestly. So I'll probably do a deep dive into the claims they're making in this op-ed on Sunday. That'll be a bigger piece. But just as it relates to the military, they published this op-ed jointly about what they plan to do, and they did call out the Pentagon. So just briefly, this paragraph, the federal government's procurement process is also badly broken. Many federal contracts have gone unexamined for years. Large-scale audits conducted during a temporary suspension of payments would yield significant savings. The Pentagon recently failed its 7th consecutive audit, suggesting that the agency's leadership has little idea how its annual budget of more than $800 billion is spent. Critics claim that we can't meaningfully close the federal deficit without taking aim at entitlement programs like Medicare and Medicaid, which require Congress to shrink. But this deflects attention from the sheer magnitude of waste, fraud, and abuse that nearly all taxpayers wish to end, and that DOGE aims to address by identifying pinpoint executive actions that would result in immediate savings for taxpayers. Now, okay, the rest of that, where he's getting into how they would do it, that's for Sunday. But they called out the Pentagon budget, which most people will tell you, if you want to reduce spending on the scale they're talking about, and reputedly Trump has told them not to go after Medicare or Medicaid, you'd have to go to the Pentagon. Where else would you go for that kind of money? Now, somebody picked up on this and decided to lend his full support, and that is Bernie Sanders. Now, look, Sanders does have a history of working with anybody who supports an issue that he wants to get behind. So I think anyone who's followed his career would not be as surprised as I guess some of the more MAGA people were by this. So here's his statement. Elon Musk is right. The Pentagon, with a budget of $886 billion, just failed its 7th audit in a row. It's lost track of billions. Last year, only 13 senators voted against the military-industrial complex and a defense budget full of waste and fraud. That much change.
Build the wall. Build the
wall. Too much of our hard-earned money is going towards migrants who are overstraining our social services and our public schools. That's going to be next.
We have an epidemic in this country of men in women's sports. Just gonna go full bore. He's finally accepted. He's finally been welcomed into a community after 83 years. He's gonna get the whole thing.
I brought my grandchildren to a party. There was a man in a dress there reading the book. I was shocked and horrified.
Yeah.
All right. So Bernie, hey, you know, he jumped onto this, and so he got some interesting responses. And wokeness has hell frozen over, which again, if you followed Bernie's career, this is not as surprising as it might be to some people who haven't. Elon Musk,
and wokeness not nearly as smart as he thinks he is, as we know.
We have never experienced and wokeness being particularly intelligent in most of his observations. Yeah. Matt Gaetz, welcome home, Bernie. Okay, it's overstating it a little. Cenk Uygur, man, he is really dying to jump out in front of the MAGA parade. I asked to be put in charge of this project, but I'm happy to defer to Bernie Sanders. Imagine if Trump put Bernie in charge of keeping the Pentagon honest. It would be the most spectacular act of bipartisanship of my lifetime. Cenk is really sucking up to MAGA, man. He is really trying to get them to watch his channel. Yo, they've already got Timcast. They've already got Timcast. They don't need you. They don't. They're not coming to TYT.
Major pick me behavior from
it really is, man. It really is. I mean, he's all over trying to get MAGA to like him now. Now Cernovich, I think, frankly, sadly, is probably closer to the truth here. This is Mike Cernovich. Instead of posting, vote to approve Republican nominees, which you won't do. You're a feckless old man who posts something now and then, but when it's time to use political power, you do what the military-industrial complex orders you to. Looks like somebody's been following Bernie's career in MAGA. Yeah. Where's the lie? So, yes, I think he's right about that. Bernie is one for grand gestures and then throwing on the knee pads when they tell him they're going to prosecute his wife or whatever they threaten him with. All right, so one of our great statesmen, John Bolton, weighed in on the question of DOGE's budget-cutting mission. Let's see what he had to say.
Look, Musk may have a big role here. It's not entirely clear what Trump is going to do with this Department of Government Efficiency. If we can save a couple $100 billion, I'd be delighted. We can spend it on the defense budget, which desperately needs an increase.
So he's all for the mission as long as it doesn't actually save any money.
Right.
As long as it's redirected to the military-industrial complex, which is starved for cash. Now, to their credit, they gently rebuked him. So Vivek quote tweeted it. We need to strengthen our military by focusing on the effectiveness of our defense spending rather than just reflexively increasing the magnitude. And Elon Musk responded to the retweet. DOGE will improve the efficiency of defense spending. So, hey, man, good for them. So just a little bit about the Defense Department and how much of the budget it takes up. In October, the Defense Department revealed that $431.4 billion of defense spending went to contracts last year. Among the leading recipients, Lockheed Martin made $61.4 billion, RTX $24.1 billion, and General Dynamics $22.9 billion. Many contractors exist as essentially taxpayer-subsidized entities. Lockheed, the biggest U.S. defense contractor, made 74.2% of its sales to the U.S. government in the third quarter. U.S. commercial sales made up a mere 1% of total company revenue. I think I might have skipped a slide. Yeah. Defense is the federal government's largest area of discretionary spending, with the Pentagon budget in fiscal year 2024 set at $841 billion, or about 12.5% of the total federal budget. It has also struggled with allegations of waste and cost overruns. Sanders noted that the Pentagon recently failed the 7th consecutive audit of its now $4.1 trillion in assets and $4.3 trillion in liabilities. Last year, the Defense Department admitted it could only account for just half of its assets. Lucrative contracts handed out to private corporations also means billions in taxpayer money is passed on under a regime with subpar oversight. Okay, so basically, you have these huge defense contractors whose entire business is servicing the Defense Department, and it's a Defense Department that can't account for its spending. So this is absolutely why as soon as they announced DOGE, people said, we'll go after the Defense Department. And hey, they're making noises in that direction. So Elon has really been going after the F-35, which a lot of people have been saying for a while is a program that should be discontinued, that isn't worth what we're spending. Billionaire Elon Musk, the man behind Tesla and SpaceX, said Tuesday, November 26th on X that the U.S. should pull the plug on Lockheed Martin's F-35 made in Fort Worth. Quote, some U.S. weapon systems are good, albeit overpriced, but please, in the name of all that is holy, let us stop the worst military value for money in history, that is the F-35 program. The comment was one of several criticisms Musk made of the fighter, which is expected to cost the federal government more than $2 trillion over its lifespan, according to Defense News. Wow. The F-35 design was broken at the requirements level, this is a tweet by Musk, because it was required to be too many things to too many people. This made it an expensive and complex jack of all trades, master of none. Success was never in the set of possible outcomes, and manned fighter jets are obsolete in the age of drones anyway. We'll just get pilots killed. Matt Gaetz responded to that. We should move away immediately toward drones. And Eric Prince of Blackwater says, I don't know if this is true, but this is what he claims. And Lockheed Martin built it in 45 states to make it veto-proof in Congress. Sounds plausible. So Elon also tweeted out what is reportedly footage of China experimenting with its drones, saying, meanwhile, some idiots are still building manned fighter jets like the F-35. So I got to say, this is some Michael Crichton creepy shit. So let's take a look. Now, there's the drones taking off. Look at them in formation. Like, that is some sci-fi stuff. That is like Battlestar Galactica. The Cylons coming for you.
Yeah, and the sound, before I show any more of that, the sound, that sort of insect-like hissing, that is eerie as well. We were being merciful on your ears not playing this at full volume. It's actually very, very loud as well.
Oh, yeah, you got...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's creepy. It's like a swarm of insects.
Yeah.
That is really, anyone who's a big fan of sci-fi, that is a very familiar image. Like these images of future tech where you would be able to have these automated swarms of deadly weapons. And now we're there. And Musk, probably with some validity is saying, yeah, well, why are we even investing in a human piloted fighter that's going to be confronted with this in a few years? Like, who's gonna really be able to fight that? So again, credit where credit is due. Lockheed Martin's F-35 program supports more than 49,000 direct and indirect jobs in the Fort Worth area and generates $9.4 billion in annual economic impact. As a federal contractor, the company's F-35 plays a crucial role in the Department of Defense's ability to meet current and future U.S. national security goals, according to the U.S. Government Accountability Office. But the program has seen production issues and rising costs as the Air Force and Navy plan to use the jets less. The F-35 has not met their readiness goals for the past 6 years, according to the U.S. Government Accountability Office. Asked about Musk's post in light of his expected role in Trump's administration, the company said it is looking forward to working with the incoming president and Congress. Quote, as we did in his first term, we look forward to a strong working relationship with President Trump, his team, and also with the new Congress to strengthen our national defense, Lockheed Martin said in a statement. The F-35 is the most advanced, survivable, and connected fighter aircraft in the world, a vital deterrent and the cornerstone of joint all-domain operations. Incoming U.S. Rep. Craig Goldman, a Republican from Fort Worth, said he will fight for the continuation of an expansion of the F-35 program. He is taking over the district represented by Kay Granger, who is retiring. Goldman said he respects much of who Musk is and the innovations he's brought to the world, but that this is an area where they disagree. He praised the, quote, brilliance of what the F-35 and the capabilities of what the F-35 has been able to do for Israel in the war with Hamas. Musk might change his mind were he to have a conversation with the Israeli government, Goldman said.
Well, past his prologue, that tends to happen.
That does tend to happen when what Israel wants, Israel gets, especially with the incoming FBI director saying we're not prioritizing them enough.
Right.
We need to prioritize them more. I'm going to fight like hell to make sure those cuts aren't made, Goldman said. All that still has to go through Congress. Okay, so herein lay the rub. It sounds like Vivek and Elon are addressing this matter seriously, to their credit. It is such a corrupt government, and clearly there are so many economic interests. This article repeatedly talks about the economic impact, how many jobs, how much economic stimulus it puts into their local economy. Now you multiply that all across the country. If you have to go through Congress to cut this, how are you going to do it? How are you really going to do it? Now, will Trump, we always said this, the fantasy of a Bernie presidency, if he had become president, would have been, well, he should go on TV and call out names. Just name people that are stopping his agenda. FDR used to do that.
Right, of course, yeah.
FDR primary Democrats.
Right.
Now, will Trump do that? He might, because he's got balls much bigger than Bernie's ever dreamed of having. Bernie probably wouldn't have done that even if he got elected. Trump would. Will he? Does he have that commitment? Or is Netanyahu going to get in his ear? No, we need the F-35. It's wonderful. We killed 100 children today with that plane.
Yeah. Well,
okay. We'll keep it going for you, Ben. You never know with him. He's a wild card. Obviously, they're going to face tremendous opposition from within their own caucus and coalition and party to doing anything like that. Will they have the balls to really take that on? Will they fight through that? Or are they just going to take the easy path, which this we'll get into Sunday, which is more getting rid of federal regulations and decreasing the size of the bureaucracy and calling it a day?
Well, I mean, don't forget, this is an unofficial agency. They're not a government agency, so they can't
do
wave a
anything. They can
magic
make
wand
recommendations
and do anything.
Right.
They can only make recommendations, and these budgetary matters, they're going to have to pass through the House and the Senate, which means you could have, and look, I hate to rain on anybody's parade here. I know I don't have a reputation for being especially cynical, so I know this is a curveball, but they could take the same approach to this that Trump took to, nominating Matt Gaetz. Oh yeah, we recommended that they cut the F-35 program. See, we're anti-military industrial complex, even though they know it's not going to happen, right? Like there could be a lot of that too.
I hate to say it, I cannot imagine that Trump is really going to go fight the military-industrial complex.
No, I don't think so. I really don't.
So yes, I think it's very Gates. They may make these recommendations, and then they'll blame the corruption, and that'll be that. I would imagine that's what's going to happen. But at the same time, that they can't really be blamed for that per se. The fact that they are raising this issue, the fact that they did include that in their op-ed, I think Elon is sincere that he thinks the F-35 is ridiculous. He's very much the futurist. I think he's looking at these drones and saying, why are we building this? I think they're sincere about that. Are you going to get that through Congress? Very unlikely, unless Trump was willing to put an amount of political capital on the line for that cause, which I don't think he's going to put on the line for a cause that's going to cost thousands of jobs.
Yeah, that's the thing. And that's kind of the interesting thing about Bernie's interest level in this. And, Bernie as a figurehead sort of represents a certain left faction that would be more committed to doing things like this. If you involve people who are actually serious, do they try and get a pressure campaign going? And how does that conflict with people who may be just doing it for show? Right. Do they end up taking on too much pressure, more than they thought they were going to, because they actually trick some sincere people into thinking that they're serious about it? It'd be interesting to see how that plays out. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think you're right. It would take a massive bully pulpit campaign from the top, from Donald Trump.
Yeah.
He would have to basically whip the votes in the House and the Senate for this, and he'd
have to name names and make a lot of threats.
Yeah, this kind of thing would require an FDR level of engagement, being, coming out and saying, we will come for your seat if you don't back us on this. Right? Because that's the only
way you'd get this done.
Exactly. That's the only way you get people even thinking about that, which he could do in these nomination appointments. Like, he obviously wasn't willing to do that for Matt Gaetz. That's what gives me hesitation about all this. Like, Matt Gaetz didn't have the votes. There were 4 senators who said they were a no. He didn't even bother trying to whip those votes. He just called Matt Gaetz and said, listen, this is not going to happen. So is he going to go to bat for Tulsi in that way? Is he going to go to bat for RFK or Kash Patel in that way? I don't know. And if he won't go to bat for them, then he ain't going to bat for military cuts. Like, if he's not going to, like, if you wouldn't go to bat for Matt Gaetz, are you going to try and cancel the F-35 program? I mean, we will see. We will see. I don't want to be premature. I don't want to be prejudicial about this. But given the fact that the agency itself has no teeth, it would take a very, very, very heavy lift.
This is what I'll say at this point, based on what information we have. It seems like Vivek and Elon are sincere about their desire to reorient the Department of Defense in a way that is more cost efficient and more technologically sound in light of future trends.
Right.
Well,
they're not anybody's nephew at the Pentagon, right?
Well, Elon himself is a defense contractor. There are questions of that, but setting that aside,
it should free up more money for him, if anything. I mean, he's not investing.
Well, there's that too. His new Tesla drone program, which no such thing exists, but it would not surprise me if it did. It might. Yeah. So you do have that, but okay. On the face of it, I accept that they are sincere, that they have the intention. They would like to draw attention to this. I would not put my money on being able to get anything like that past the corruption of Congress and the Senate. And I'd be shocked if Donald Trump were willing to exert the sustained political effort that would be required to overcome that institutional resistance.
Yeah, I think you're correct about that. Absolutely. All right, let's go to Ravid Laz here. 2 other good Korean films are Parasite and The Man from Nowhere. Parasite's great.
I love Parasite. I've never seen The Man from Nowhere.
I've never seen The Man from Nowhere either. Actually, Bong Joon-ho has a new movie coming out. I forget what it's called. I just saw the trailer for it. It's like a comedy. But yeah, no, Parasite was terrific. The Man from Nowhere is a good action film with Taken vibes. All right, thank you, Ravid Laz. Appreciate that. I Am the Owl says Biden's legacy: resist integrating schools, 94 crime bill, pro-corporate bankruptcy reforms, a war with over 500,000 dead Slavs, and a brutal campaign of genocide with over 200,000 Arab deaths. Yes, that is his legacy for sure. But, what a stain on his legacy that he pardoned his son. That's the other thing. The liberals, now his legacy is on the line.
Now his legacy is tarnished, too.
Yeah.
Genocide.
Yeah.
All good.
Ken Texican, Joe Biden, a tragic figure. What freaking world do these pod-safe America folk live in? Seriously? Hey, Russ interviewed fans. That was a while ago. You guys may not have seen that yet.
I was going to say, if you take a look at their audience, it all makes sense.
Yeah, that's the good point, Charles Soundrop.
These people are turkeys. They're
really, yeah.
they're as dumb as a field of turkeys, holding their mouths open in the rain.
Please plan an Irving Berlin Whitewash Christmas to be sung by Bing Brainwash by Chuck Todd, Rachel Maddow, and Mad Cow Choir. There you go. Thank you, Ken Texican.
It's funny, man.
I'm stoked. Thank you.
With that last video essay, that was the first time I really used AI technology, and I was impressed. Impressed. You can do a lot with it now, including things like that.
Yep. RB Ham. Is there any chance you could forward my Give Send Go to Landrew and Sparky? Thank you. RB Ham is court ordered his lockdown defiance ticket, so there's his link if you want to help him out. The judge really threw the book at him. Is that a phrase up there in Canada? Threw the book at you? I think that's a universal phrase. They threw the kitchen sink at him. They threw the kitchen sink at RB Ham.
They threw the Wolverine at him.
/RB Ham. Yes. All right, let's go over to John Freese. Thanks for the $4.99 over on YouTube. Thanks, Keaton, for your willingness to check out the ACP program. It is under the Party Information tab on the website. Sure thing, John Freese. Will do. Okay, beautiful. Let's go on to, all right, we got 2 more pieces on the day. Well, really 3, but the last one's sort of a 2-in-1. Okay, so there was a ceasefire brokered between Israel and Lebanon. But despite the ceasefire still being intact, quote unquote, Deadly Israeli strikes hit southern Lebanon after Hezbollah attacks, testing shaky ceasefire. Now, what this headline omits, but later in the article you'll see, Israel broke this ceasefire the day after it was implemented. Caitlin Johnson tweeted out a funny tweet that I just saw after we started the show. She says, the kind of ceasefire where one side gets to keep firing is basically the type of ceasefire that was brokered here. Israeli strikes killed at least 9 people in southern Lebanon, Lebanese authorities said Monday, the deadliest day since a ceasefire brokered by the United States and France came into effect last week. The strikes in the Nabataya governorate near the Israeli border killed 5 people in the town of Haris and 4 in the town of Talusa, Lebanon's health ministry said. 3 people were injured, it added. But the uneasy truce between Israel and Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah appeared to be holding, even as the two sides accused each other of breaching the deal. Hezbollah on Monday fired 2 projectiles toward Israeli-occupied territory, responding to repeated Israeli strikes that have hit Lebanon daily since Thursday, the day after the ceasefire came into force. Look at how that article is written. This is part of why we tend to use mainstream sources too, partly to steelman our arguments against people who would accuse us of cherry-picking bias sources. Yeah. But also this. If you read this, it mentions that Lebanon, after Hezbollah attacks testing shaky ceasefire deal, it mentions their strikes first, and then it buries into the article that actually Hezbollah on Monday fired 2 projectiles towards occupied territory, responding to repeated Israeli strikes that have hit Lebanon since Thursday, the day after the ceasefire came into force. So it buries well into the article that actually Israel broke the ceasefire first. And that's consistent with what the UN said, as well as France.
Right.
The projectiles landed in an open area and no one was injured, according to the Israeli military. It did not specify the type of projectile fired. Hours later, Israel's military said it began striking Hezbollah terrorists, dozens of launchers, and terrorist infrastructure throughout Lebanon. After Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed to retaliate, calling Hezbollah's attack a serious violation of the ceasefire. Lebanese state media also reported that Israeli drones flew low over Beirut and its southern suburbs, a Hezbollah stronghold. CNN teams on the ground reported hearing a drone flying low over the Lebanese capital. The IDF said earlier on Monday that its cross-border strikes, despite the ceasefire, had been in response to several acts by Hezbollah in Lebanon that posed a threat to Israeli civilians in violation of the understandings between Israel and Lebanon. It said it had struck military vehicles at a Hezbollah missile manufacturing site in the Bekaa Valley, hope I'm saying that right, and tunnels near the Syrian border in northern Lebanon. The U.S. and France have both warned Israel they believe it has violated the ceasefire terms, according to CNN affiliate CAN and Israeli news outlet Ynet. A source with the United Nations peacekeeping force in Lebanon said Israel had breached its ceasefire agreement with Lebanon approximately 100 times since the truce went into effect last week. CNN has asked the IDF for comment, so we have a little bit of video. This is pretty short. Even CNN is reporting that Israel violated the ceasefire with Lebanon about 100 times in 6 days. They echo that UN claim here, citing the UN.
Clear, though, Dana, that there have been continuous violations since this ceasefire took effect early Wednesday morning. CNN spoke to a UN peacekeeping source who says that Israel has violated that ceasefire about 100 times. But there are many people on both sides of this border who are desperately hoping that this doesn't escalate further and that the ceasefire prevails, Dana.
In addition to that, France accuses Israel of 52 ceasefire agreement violations. France has warned Israel about the risk of a ceasefire collapse in Lebanon, on Sunday. French diplomats have reported 52 Israeli violations which were not reported via the planned surveillance mechanism and have resulted in the death of 3 Lebanese civilians, allegedly. Paris has also noted the resumption of Israeli drone flights at low altitude over Beirut. So those were claimed by the Lebanese people. That claim seems to have been corroborated by both the French government and CNN, according to that last article that we just read. A high-ranking French official expressed Paris's concern about a possible collapse of the ceasefire. Quote, the Lebanese are fully committed to maintaining the ceasefire and to prevent Hezbollah from returning to the south, but they need time to prove themselves, he said. Israel responded to these criticisms by indicating that the implementation mechanism of the agreement will start to pick up pace on Monday and Tuesday. Again, Caitlin Johnson, a ceasefire agreement where one side gets to keep firing. We will work to implement the mechanism of this agreement. What is it? This is now 6 days after the initial agreement. An Israeli diplomatic source affirmed that any violation will be punished with a significant response. That's what's happening on the ground. So Ryan Grimm asked Matthew Miller about this. What does the ceasefire agreement allow Israel to do? And we're going to hear a pretty typical response from Count Morlock here.
Asking for a little bit more background on the side letter that the U.S. sent to Israel regarding the ceasefire arrangement with Hezbollah and Israel. What does it allow Israel to do?
Look, I don't have anything more I can speak to about the ceasefire agreement, but I will say that a lot of the reporting around the ceasefire agreement tends to treat as news that Israel can exercise what ultimately is a right that every country has.
Wow.
Every country has the right to defend itself against terrorist attacks. Israel has that right. Lebanon has that right. Every country in the world has that right. And they have that right.
What does he follow this gig up with? Tobacco lobbying?
Yeah, right. It's amazing.
Like,
it's
what's
amazing.
next for this guy?
This is basically they're coming right for us on South Park, right? You could say it's coming right for us, and then you can strike, and that counts as self-defense, even though it was Israel who broke the ceasefire, obviously. That's what CNN buried 3 paragraphs into their article, where they made it sound like Lebanon broke it.
Yeah, I really cannot think of a country on earth today that is more untrustworthy, more just completely heedless, even of perceptions, than Israel. They just don't give a fuck. Right. They know that the biggest, meanest bully on the block has their back. They don't give a shit. They don't give a shit what anybody thinks about what ceasefire, schmeasefire. Yeah, sure, sign it. It'll be a good headline. It'll confuse people.
We'll just say we were under threat. We say we felt threatened, so we'll hit them again. That's it.
Yeah.
That's basically what he says here. That's basically what he says here.
Every country has the right to defend itself against terrorist attacks. Israel has that right. Lebanon has that right. Every country in the world has that right, and they have that right under international law.
But the United States often characterizes Israeli attacks as defense. France says that Israel has violated the ceasefire 52 times at this point. But if they're just recouched as Israel defending itself, is Israel allowed to continue to attack Hezbollah as long as it says that was self-defense, that was self-defense?
Look, as I said in response to questions earlier, we have a mechanism that we have set up to look at these exact questions and to look at reports of ceasefire violations and to determine whether, in fact, they were violations of the ceasefire, whether, in fact, if an incident was in some way justified because somebody had come under the threat of harm.
So you could just say you felt like you were under the threat of harm.
Right.
A ceasefire, I mean, the level of gaslighting, I should never be surprised when it comes to this guy. We all know what a ceasefire means. We've been calling for a ceasefire for over a year now. It's pretty self-explanatory what it means. When one party fires on the other party the day after the ceasefire is supposed to be implemented, that party has broken the ceasefire. And that's why the UN has cited 100 violations. The French government, 52 violations. He's saying, no, if they felt threatened, they were justified in striking. That's not a violation of the ceasefire. I mean, that's a new one.
Look,
that's a new one.
The nice thing about Trump taking over is they're not going to feel a need to exercise this kind of sophistry. They're going to put up some maniac that they pulled out of the subways to do this job. who's just going to say, yeah, well, God damn it, they're on their land. They're on their land. Have you read the Bible?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, they're gonna have some goon come out and just scream at people who ask these kinds of questions, and that'll be that.
Yeah. I will find that refreshing after 4 years of Count Morlock.
Of this, yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to make those judgments from here
Fat
before
Solder.
that group has the opportunity to work through these questions. That's why we set it up in the first place, so it could do so in a diligent way, and that's what they're going to do. But
they have the opportunity to work through these questions as they continue to fire upon the other party.
Yeah, right.
So at this point, I mean, why even call for a ceasefire?
They just wanted
Gaza?
the headlines.
Doesn't matter.
They just wanted
matter.
the headlines.
Yeah.
Look, the whole myth of Israel, this is what they were telling me when I was a child. I still see it to this day from Zionists. The myth of Israel is that all they want is peace. And sometimes they'll put it this way in private. Usually they'll try to couch it. They're deeply racist against the Arab people around them. And the basic idea is these Arab people are, it's the savage Indians, right? It's
right.
They're irrationally motivated. You know what passes for liberal with a Zionist? Blaming the leadership.
Right.
That's what passes for liberal with these people. But in the end, the Jewish people are an oppressed people, and people in Israel, and Zionism is synonymous with Judaism. This is all anti-Semitism, and it's all driven by irrationality and evil, and they're just trying to protect themselves. And that's it. And if that is the propaganda they put out, that's very much the self-image they have. So at that point, if you've completely brainwashed yourself into believing that that's how the world works, and these people are only attacking you because they hate Jews, what's not justified?
Yep. I'll back this up a little bit, and then we'll let it play out.
Under the threat of harm. And I'm not going to make those judgments from here before that group has the opportunity to work through these questions. That's why we set it up in the first place, so it could do so in a diligent way, and that's what they're going to do. But that said, we believe that it is in the interest of Israel and Lebanon that this ceasefire hold. Remember, when you look at it from Israel's perspective, the 70,000 Israeli citizens that have been forced from their homes don't get to return home if the ceasefire collapses. So it is very much in Israel's interest to see the ceasefire hold, and we're going to continue to press them to adhere to it.
Would there be any additional consequences from the U.S. if Israel was determined through this mechanism to have broken the ceasefire?
I'm just not going to get into hypotheticals. Go ahead.
So are there any consequences?
We're talking about a strongly worded email.
Okay,
There's some discussion, but we need to build consensus for an email.
Yeah. So if you determine, I mean, you've made no determination. I mean, Matt Lee, everybody's talked about this. This guy comes out and says, we're looking into it, or our Israeli partners are looking into it. There's never any follow-up. He says, okay, well, if you determine that they violated the ceasefire, will there be any consequences? I'm not going to get into that. Next question.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. And now you see, even if a ceasefire is achieved, this whole time we've been calling for a ceasefire, turns out they could have given us a ceasefire in Gaza. They could have just said, okay, yeah, we declared a ceasefire. Israel keeps breaking the ceasefire. Well, yeah, no, they're not really breaking it. They felt threatened, so they had to. There's no winning. There's no winning.
Well, this is their last 6 weeks. By popular demand, they're playing the classics. Really, the press corps should pull out lighters when he does this.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, cell phones. That is pretty astounding. Pretty astounding stuff. Furrow Squeen says, came for the political commentary, paid local, subscribe for the impressions. Bernie, RFK, Norm, Jank, Jordan Peterson. My Kamala sounds like RFK, and my RFK sounds like Jimmy Stewart. Haha, thank you very much, Furrow Squeen. Appreciate that. Citizen Charles says, Patel and Gates nominations are Trump's version of the Overton window. Red meat for rabid MAGA with no hope of approval, but maybe moving the needle a bit. Yeah, I can't imagine Patel. I meant to bring that up in the segment, and then I meant to bring that up with Tracy yesterday. It skipped my mind both times, but I can't imagine that guy gets confirmed. You think a guy saying he's going to put the Epstein list out is going to get past the fucking Senate? Like, I don't see it happening. I just don't see it. Maybe I'm wrong. T.S. Crasher, remember that time the Marines lost the whole F-35? I remember. Yeah, there you go. Remember, Barry. Thank you. Michael Ewan is a member on YouTube. Speaking of member, for 4 months. F-35 is canceled until it's made by SpaceX. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, exactly.
Alrighty, everybody. We are going to do our last segment, which is a two-parter, and then we are going to read the rest of our chats and rants, and then We're out of here. All right. So,
Yeah,
Russell,
out.
we're doing your part first, right? Yeah.
Well, I'm going to do both of them. But.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You got the second part in there. Okay, cool.
Yep. Okay, so this is kind of a fun one. It turns out, and we're all very surprised to hear this, that Barack Obama doesn't give a flying anything. I don't want to get it demonetized at the beginning of the video.
15 seconds here, yeah.
First 15. Yeah. He doesn't care about the people who help him.
Doesn't give a rat's
really
behind.
shocking.
Yeah.
Really shocking development here. George Clooney furious with Barack Obama for disappearing after the election disaster. George Clooney called out President Joe Biden's health and cognitive abilities in a strongly worded op-ed published shortly before the 81-year-old ended his campaign for the 2024 election and endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris. Now that President-elect Donald Trump has officially won the White House, a source suggested Clooney feels abandoned by Barack Obama, who reportedly pushed the Ocean's 11 actor to speak out on Biden's fitness for office. Quote, George is furious with Obama for disappearing after the election disaster and leaving him holding the bag for pushing the plan with his Hollywood pals, an insider dished to a news outlet. Quote, Obama and Clooney have been tight for years, and George became Barack's surrogate in leading the charge for Joe to step away, the insider continued. Barack knew he would look like a traitor if he publicly called for Joe to be cut loose, and now he's trying to walk away from it all. As OK previously reported, Clooney's passionate essay pointed out Biden's poor performance at the June presidential debate and claimed Biden could not win in another head-to-head against Trump. Quote, it's devastating to say it, but the Joe Biden I was with 3 weeks ago at the fundraiser was not the Joe big effing deal Biden of 2010, he wrote. He wasn't even the Joe Biden of 2020. He was the same man we all witnessed at the debate. We are not going to win in November with this president. Listen, that's true as far as it goes. The internal polling that they had was showing he was going to lose 45 states.
Yeah.
He likely would have taken an even worse loss than Kamala did.
Oh, no doubt he would have. No doubt he would have. If she only won Illinois by 4, he was liable to lose it.
Yeah. So this idea that the mistake was pushing out Biden is ludicrous.
It's nonsense.
But these Hollywood folks are not known for their smarts. Trump 78 declared his victory in the early morning hours of Wednesday, November 7th, which led critics to slam Clooney for his supposed role in Biden's decision to step down from his campaign. I wish he never opened his mouth, one ex-user said, referring to Clooney. Joe should not have been talked down. Yeah, I'm mad at everyone who convinced Joe to go. He would have beat him again.
Idiot. They're lucky they mentioned them as one ex-user. They're lucky they didn't out them because that is a stupid fucking quote.
Yes.
And just to correct the record, it's November 6th. It was their error, not ours, but Wednesday was the 6th, yeah.
I'm so disgusted with the Democratic Party leaders, George Clooney, Stephen King, Rob Reiner. Now, that says a lot that you would describe them as the Democratic Party leaders.
Leader, Stephen King. Yeah, he should be DNC chair, Stephen King.
Leading Democratic Party propagandists, maybe. And all the other wealthy people who demanded Joe step aside. You know, Joe's a wealthy person. Have you heard about that? Another person penned, thanks a lot. You pushed out the guy who could win. F you all. The source noted, I love the libs. The source noted Clooney feels duped and vows he's not going to be anyone's political water boy anymore. George feels he stepped up and took a bullet for the team. Well, this is kind of surprising that George Clooney would be surprised. Apparently, he didn't realize that Obama doesn't even care about the people who got him where he is. And, you know, he really should remember because this impacted him. So if you remember, during the Delta variant of COVID, Obama had a 60th birthday party and he cut Larry David, David Letterman, Conan O'Brien, because he was getting a lot of kind of pushback on everyone being told to stay in their homes while he had this party. So let's take a quick look at this. Comedian Larry David and the talk show host David Letterman and Conan O'Brien were uninvited amid concern about the rapidly spreading COVID-19 Delta variant. The New York Times reported Friday, the majority of Obama's former administration staffers, including top advisor David Axelrod, also got the axe, the Times reported. That is a narcissist of almost inconceivable proportions, that you would cut David Axelrod, the man who sold your vapid, shallow politics as having some kind of meaning, as being as you as promising to be the next FDR, when all you ever really said was, well, on the one hand, these people have a point. And on the other hand, those people have a point. I'm going to fix it for you. That's it. It made you look like this, second coming of FDR on nothing substantive that you ever actually said. And that guy gets cut from your. How do you do that? Can you imagine cutting those people from your birthday party? Wow. But not everyone was cut. Not everyone was cut. Who wasn't cut? Oh, look. Several other celebrities, including Beyonce, Jay-Z, Bruce Springsteen, Steven Spielberg, and who? George Clooney made the pared down list. So this is like the person who met their spouse by having an affair with them, being surprised when that person now has an affair when they're married to them. Well, they were having an affair with you. What made you think they weren't going to have an affair on you?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
This guy treated his own people like that. What, do you think you were special? I thought it was the real thing, Barack.
Right.
So what happened there?
No, I put the headline up. That was it, because then that's the next part, right? Yeah.
Okay, so
But
yeah.
hold on. Before we talk about that next part, just because I want to put a little meat on the bones of this, and that's why I wanted to check this first headline here.
Okay.
Furious with Obama for disappearing after the election disaster. The fact that you got people out here thinking that in any way the election was winnable at that point, and that it was what is his theory? That Barack Obama set him up to take Biden down so that Obama wouldn't have to get his hands dirty? I told you that was going to be what they did. That part of this I called exactly right. I said they're going to get Biden out in phases. First, they're going to send the low-level sort of foot soldiers out there to see if they can convince him to step down. That's not going to work. So then they're going to have to get, big-name Democrats like a George Clooney, right? Like Rob Reiner, the real, Twitter chorus. They're going to have to go out. That's not going to work. When that doesn't work, Obama and Pelosi and Schumer are going to come to him and give him an ultimatum. It's 25th Amendments, or we could do this the easy way, something to that effect. And that was going to be what got him out. Clooney, did Obama set Clooney up to look like an idiot? Only to the kind of idiot who would post on Twitter, "Why'd you force Joe out? Why'd you force..." As if that was a pivotal moment in the campaign, as if that was the fork in the road. No. The fork in the road in this election was actually 2 years ago, when Biden should have announced he's not running. And if there was any prayer at all, you'd have had to swap him out for a last-minute primary blitz. We're talking single-digit success chances here, it turns out, given what the composition of the turnout actually was, which we admit we misjudged. But if you were going to have any prayer in the world, it couldn't have been her. And that is a segue into this next piece. Yeah.
Okay, so George Clooney, I don't think, is upset about randos on Twitter. I am sure he's getting that shit from inside Hollywood.
Well, yeah,
he's very from the Rob Reiners.
Yeah,
and Mark Hamill is showing up with a lightsaber at his doorstep.
Yeah,
and I'm sure that's what he's actually reacting to. And Obama, you haven't seen him, right? You haven't seen him. That fucking narcissistic scumbag burn this party to the ground. And
Yep.
that is a video essay me and Keaton are planning on collaborating on.
Yeah, it's going to be a big one.
The Obama files.
Yeah.
And yeah, but what did you expect? Oh, it was cool when the people who got him there got cut from the party, but you didn't. Made you
Right.
feel all special. Well, you should have known who you were dealing with right there. If he would do it to them, you didn't think he was going to do it to you when he didn't need you anymore, when you became inconvenient? Like that is if you'll cut those people, you'll cut anybody.
Exactly. And that's exactly what he did. He burned the party to the ground. He destroyed the party, and then he's disappeared. You haven't really heard much from him.
Nope. Okay, so Lindy Lee has really been making the rounds. This is really a case of hell hath no fury like a rich woman scorned. She has been everywhere outing the real behind the scenes action at the DNC in a way that I've never seen before. I've never seen anyone in her position come out and spill the tea like this. So DNC official and former Kamala surrogate Lindy Lee says she knows for a fact that Obama and Pelosi did not want Kamala to be the nominee and that Biden endorsed her out of nowhere while Obama was vetting contenders. Biden endorsed Kamala to tank the coup. Okay, so let's see what she had to say. My mouse froze. Can you
That's
throw
okay.
that
Here,
up?
I have it.
Oh, no.
Do you agree that Obama and Pelosi did not want Harris?
I know they didn't. It's not. I have a lot of friends in Obama world, and actually, I'm friends with Speaker Pelosi, and I spoke with her before I actually went on air to encourage President Biden to step aside. And I touched base with her camp before I did that.
And what did she tell you?
It's not a matter of conjecture for me. I know they didn't.
I appreciate that. What did she tell you at that time?
Well, she said it was fine that I went on air to encourage President Biden to step down. It was July 21st when I went on Fox News Sunday, and I said it was time for him to step down and pass the mantle to the next generation. It was necessary. It became clear that he was no longer able to effectively litigate the case against President Biden, against Trump. So, and Obama and Pelosi were both hoping for a primary instead of a coronation, so to speak.
Who do you think they were hoping for?
I don't think Pelosi was hoping for anyone in particular, or not that I know of. I do know that Obama was carefully vetting Mark Kelly, the senator from Arizona. I know there were other names on his list. I'm not saying that Kamala Harris was necessarily at the top of the list, but he was definitely considering other candidates. I don't think she was ruled out. I just think that everyone is, a lot of people, the chieftains of the party, were hoping for a lightning round, a lightning primary. And President Biden essentially preempted that by issuing his endorsement 30 minutes after he dropped out. I don't think anyone saw that coming. We did not see that coming. I think a lot of people anticipated that he might have stepped aside, but no one anticipated the twofer that we got that day.
See, now this really shows you.
Do you agree that Obama
This really shows you what scum these people are. These people were all engineering to put. If you put these two stories together, I know this is going to be clipped separately. We're talking about how miffed George Clooney is that Obama put him up to writing that op-ed and then disappeared. And
Right.
now a lot of his Hollywood pals are angry at him. So you put this all together. So Obama whispers in the ear of this dumb as dog shit actor who thinks Obama's his buddy and not just using him for what he can get out of him like he does with everybody else. Gets him to go out there and put himself out on the front lines. Writes this op-ed that I think he would have been pushed out anyway, but it certainly helped to mainstream that conversation in the corporate media that Joe Biden has to go. And they're all behind the scenes with all this intrigue, quietly among the donors. Lindy Lee is a major donor, plotting for who they're going to replace him with. And Joe Biden fucked them. Now, I think we and most people thought that was all planned, that they wanted to install Harris and that Biden was doing that because they told him to. but apparently no. They knew that Harris couldn't win. Obama, who, look, he's lost a step, very much like Bill Clinton. He's certainly not at the top of his game politically, going before a bunch of black men and condescending to them in that way. Like, I think his political instincts have dulled, but he's not an idiot. He knew Harris probably couldn't win. He wasn't wrong to be thinking about other people. I don't know about Mark Kelly. And they screwed him. So this was what was going on behind the scenes. And now, as Lindy Lee has pointed out many times, and this is part of why she's going on this scorched earth tour in revenge, they burned her with all her friends. She says, all the people I talk to, they're not going to write a check to the Democratic Party anymore. They all say they'll never give money to this party again. Like, that's something we haven't even looked ahead to. Like, how are they going to fundraise for another campaign after this?
Yeah, for sure. That is an angle of this that perhaps hasn't been explored as much as it will in a couple years when they're struggling to raise money for whoever the next candidate is. Certainly. But no, it was reported in late July that Obama was pissed off that Biden jumped the gun and endorsed Harris. And it was also reported that, yes, what she said there checks out in terms of what I've read, which is that, he wanted Mark Kelly, swing state, kind of centrist, nondescript, senator.
But the way it was presented was that was Obama.
Right.
But this is what the party wanted. What she's saying is nobody wanted Harris.
No one wanted her.
It looked like it was a split between Obama world and the core of the DNC, not according to her.
No, according to her, and this makes sense to me, they had a plan to do a blitz primary where, Obama comes out and endorses Mark Kelly. He's now the prohibitive front runner. I mean, Obama is still the kingmaker, right? And that's why he was pissed, because he was taken out of the decision at the most pivotal point. Within an hour of tweeting out that he wasn't running anymore, he tweets out.
But the news here is that was on his own initiative.
Yes, that was on his own initiative. Right, exactly.
That wasn't Pelosi and Schumer. That was him.
Exactly, that was him. He fucked it up. He fucked it up. Because, I mean, it's just a comedy of errors. It truly is like hilarious how this unfolded. This doddering old man who crumbles at the debate. They get him to drop out after a month, but then what? You don't watch him? You should have your aides surrounding him so that he doesn't issue an order to tweet out anything unless you have input on that as well. You leave him alone to tweet out, hey, I fully support Kamala Harris. You
should lock him in the screening room and replace him with a double.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. People have joked that, Biden voted for Trump. At this point, man, I wouldn't put it past him that he voted for Trump.
Right, the whole family did.
He seemed, there was the whole thing where Jill wore a red dress to vote that day. Yeah, there was a whole thing. I mean, all of their body language, putting on the Trump hat as a troll at the, rally that he went to. He seemed happy as could be the day after Trump won when he gave the press conference. He was smiling ear to ear when he's sitting with Trump in the White House when he came for the visit. He seems very pleased at how this all turned out, and he's exactly the kind of petty egomaniac who would be very pleased at this outcome. And I wouldn't be surprised if he said, no, fuck them. They're not going to have it all their way. If they're going to take me out of the game, I'm going to saddle them with Kamala Harris, who he clearly can't stand. It's amazing. What a comedy of errors. He hates her. I got news for you. He hates her. Let me tell you something. He hates her. Yeah. No, I believe it. I mean, at this point, it's not even really a joke anymore to contemplate that perhaps he actually voted for Donald Trump.
I bet he did if I had to put money on it.
Yeah. I would say there's a good chance he did. Oh, what a funny story. All right. Egg64, thanks for the $5. I could see why the DNC thinks of Obama as a god. He puts his hands on everything and nothing at the same time. Thank you very much for that. All right, folks, before we leave you today, I do want to give you another podcast recommendation, and that's the Heba and Goy Show. Our friend Dan Richman sponsors the show, which, by the way, we do have a couple sponsorship slots lined up. We do have a couple of you guys in line. I will be sending out emails to get you guys enrolled because some of the ad campaigns ended. But if you would like to sponsor the show, dudissidents.com/sponsors. And if you have a small business or a project or a cause or artistic project, a book, music, we're happy to partner with you to promote that. And Dan Richmond, handsome Dan Richmond, the Motley Jew, who calls into the show from time to time. He has a great podcast called Heb and Goy. If you want to take a break from politics and hear one Heb and one Goy sort of testify to the struggles of daily life, bickering, griping, complaining about recreational noseblowers and adult milk drinkers, as they say, go to hebandgoy.com. That's hebandgoy.com, no ampersand. And you could plug the RSS feed into your favorite podcast player, or you could simply subscribe to their YouTube channel, which I encourage you to do. It's a great show, very funny, very pleasant show, very easy listening, a little bit of a change of pace for all you politics junkies. So that's hebandgoy.com for the audio podcast feed, or plug Heb and Goy into your YouTube search bar. All righty. Ken Texican, in my DOD experience, at a low money level, buku indicators there's a hell of fraud, waste, abuse happening by both civil servants and active duty in direct charge of QA of the government contracts. Thank you, Ken Texican. Back from the road, but what about the NLRB? Libs 2030 talking about Biden in our fallout shelters. Exactly. Thank you. Yes, appreciate that. Well, you know what? The other irony is that Trump actually appointed a relatively pro-labor secretary.
Yes, another one that's not going to go through.
Yeah, another one. Yeah. Ken Texican for $50. Let's have another cowbell for Ken Texican.
Buddy.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that. It's very kind of you. Lebanon, 1/10 the size of Kentucky. Cut Lebanon from two-dimensional map. Flip it. Turn it over 30 or so degrees. Looks like Kentucky. So many in U.S. Kentucky, no clue. Real 3D bleeders are dying from U.S. bombs. That is true. Thank you, Ken Texican. Appreciate that generous donation, my friend. Did we read this one? Egg 64, $5. I could see why DNC thinks of Obama as a god. He puts his hands on everything and nothing at the same time. Yes, we did read that one. Thank you very much for that. Folks, thank you very much for being here today. Stay tuned at 8 o'clock. We're premiering our full interview, about an hour and 40 minutes long, with Michael Tracey, independent journalist. That was a great one. The newsletter links are going to come out for that within the hour. I have to upload the premiere to Rumble. It will be premiering on both YouTube and Rumble in just 3 hours. So you will see more of us later, but you will see us again live on this channel Thursday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern for some morning dew. We appreciate you all being here this afternoon. Hit that like button on the way out. Hit that subscribe button and that follow button on the way out. And we will see you back here tonight. We'll be hanging out in the chat for the Tracey interview. And back live Thursday morning, 9 a.m. Until then, thanks very much for this afternoon. It's been a pleasure as always. Be safe and be well.
Courage!
Please clap.